Dobré ráno, milí priatelia.
Very good morning,
Dobré ráno
dear
želám.
friends.
Moje meno je Peter Rusiniak
I am
a
Peter Rusiniak,
mám tu česť vás
and
privítať
I'm
dneska na
privileged
našej
and
9.
honored to welcome you at
výročnej
our
konferencii Business
9th
Services to Fora pod
annual
americkou obchodnou komorou.
conference of
Veľmi pekne ďakujem,
BSCF,
že ste si našli čas,
organized by
že ste prišli
AmCham.
podporiť
I'm very
túto
glad that you
komunitu
have found
na jej
time and
po
you have
slovensku
come
hovoríme,
here
že flagship of
to
the event. Flagship
support
event of the year.
it on its flagship
Je
event
to úžasné
of the
vidieť vás
year.
všetkých
It's
takto cez 100 ľudí v jednej
amazing to
miestnosti,
see you
ďalších veľa
all
na
here,
online,
over
ktorí sa k nám
100
pridávajú
people and
hybridne.
many of
Veľmi sa z toho
you
teším,
joining us
ďakujem ešte
online.
raz
I'm very
krásne.
happy
Každý ste si na
that
svojej stoličke
this is
našli
happening.
malé prekvapenie.
You have all
Je to
found a
najnovší,
small little
najhodnotnejší
surprise on
dataset
your
o našom
chair.
sektore,
It's
ktorý na
the
Slovensku
newest
zamestnáva
data set
40 000
on
ľudí
our sector that
a
employs
je
40,000
veľkým
people in
prispievateľom k tomu, že
Slovakia,
sa
and it's a
táto
great
krajina
contributor
posúva
to
dopredu.
Slovakia
Užite
moving
si
forward.
dnešný program, užite si
So
tie
enjoy
dáta.
today's agenda, enjoy
And let me
today's
just
program
couple of words
and
in English, and we
data.
just switch into that. Portion of the program will be delivered in Slovak language, so if you happen to be a non-Slovak speaker, please do raise your hand and our colleagues will provide you with the translation station, and enjoy the program.
Dobrý deň, vážení
Very
páni štátni
good
tajomníci, vážené dámy, vážení
morning,
páni,
dear state
vážení
secretaries, ladies
hostia,
and
vítajte
gentlemen, dear
na
guests.
9.
Welcome at
výročnej konferencii
the
Business Service
9th
Center Fora, ktoré
annual
vzniklo a
Business
funguje
Center
vďaka
Forum
Americkej obchodnej komore.
that
Predtým, ako prejdem
operates and
z
was
niektoré
established
slajdy a
by
troška sa
the
pozastavím a
AmCham,
okomentujem niektoré tie
before I
veci,
walk you through
video je
some
troška také
slides and
dynamické, možno
comment
ste
to
niektoré
you,
dáta
comment on a couple of
nestihli
things.
vidieť.
The video is
Chcel by som
relatively
poďakovať našim
dynamic,
partnerom, bez
maybe you
ktorých by
haven't
toto
caught
podujatie určite
some
nevzniklo.
of the data.
V prvom
I would
rade
like to
ďakujeme
thank our
Ministerstvu
partners,
hospodárstva
the
za
Ministry of
kontinuálnu
Economy,
pomoc,
for
podporu a
continuous
samozrejme aj
support,
záštitu za
assistance,
toto
and
podujatie.
also
Ďakujeme
auspices over
technickému
this
partnerovi
event. I would like
Hurricane,
to
ktorý
thank
pripravil toto
Hurricane,
všetko
the
okolo,
technical
čo tu
partner
vidíte,
that
vrátane tej
has
veľkej
prepared
scény
everything
letkovej, aby
around
ste mali
us,
dobrý zážitok, nielen
also
vizuálny, ale aj všetko ostatné.
including
Ďakujeme
the
mediálnym
live
partnerom,
screen. I would like to thank the
spoločnosti
media
Nextech,
partners,
Slovak
Nextech,
Spectator a
Slovak
Trend.
Spectator and
Samozrejme,
Trend,
v
and of
neposlednom
course,
rade
last but
ďakujeme
not
Americkej
least,
obchodnej komore,
I'd like to
všetkým jej
thank the
zamestnancom,
AmCham
ktorí nás
and
neúnavne
its
podporujú
all
a znášajú s nami
employees
všetky
that
naše
have been supporting us
požiadavky.
and
No a v
carry
neposlednom rade
all
samozrejme
our
všetkým členom
demands on
Business Service
their
Center Fora,
shoulders,
39
and last
firiem,
but not
ktoré dneska
least,
tvorí
39
Business
companies
Service
that
Center
create
Forum.
Business
Tak
Service
ako Peťo
Center
hovoril,
Forum.
táto konferencia bude
As Peter was
bilingválna,
saying,
takže
this
tí,
is
čo
going to be
nerozumejú
a
mojej
bilingual
slovenčine, dúfam teda, že
conference.
dostali
Those of you
staničky a
who
majú v
don't
podstate
understand my
vo svojich
Slovak,
ušiach
I
už
hope
preklad
that
anglicky
you
a
already
všetko
hear
funguje tak,
the
ako má.
English
Počas
interpretation and
konferencie
everything
budeme
is
mať
working
niekoľko
smoothly.
panelových
During the
diskusí,
conference, we will
program
have
ste
a couple
dostali.
of panel
Máme
discussions.
Slido k dispozícii, takže
There is
ak máte
Slido
svoje mobilné
available,
telefóny
so if you
a
have your
chcete sa spýtať
smartphones
čokoľvek,
at hand,
kľudne
which you
využite
probably
Slido,
have,
použite
make
hashtag
use of
BSCF, Business Service Center
Slido,
Forum.
hashtag
Kľudne, ak by
BSCF,
ste mali
Business
akúkoľvek otázku
Center
tu v
Forum, and if you
publiku,
have
zdvihnite
any
ruku,
question
budeme
right
mať
here,
mikrofón,
and please just
naša
raise your
šarmantná
hand,
hostka
and
vám podá
our
mikrofón, kľudne sa
hostess
potom
is
pýtajte.
going to
Takže dúfajme, že si
give
užijete
it to
dnešnú
you, and you may
konferenciu
ask in
a
person.
poďme
I
sa
hope
pozrieť
that
na tie
you will
dáta za
enjoy
posledný
today's
rok
conference, and let's
2022.
look into the
Keď sa
data
pozrieme
for
na to, už
2022.
som spomínal 39
I have already
firiem,
mentioned that we do have 39 companies
39 firiem je dneska združených v fórach,
that are united in the BSCF.
Na Slovensku však funguje
And
60
however,
firiem,
in Slovakia,
ktoré
there are 60 companies that operate centers of shared services, and I will comment it on the next slide. And we keep on claiming that the BSCF represent 95% of the whole sector. When we look into demography, 66% of the employees working in the centers of shared services are people who have the first, second, or the third degree of university education. That means the sector really attracts talent, or the employees that are coming from university environment. We are very glad that for the second year, consecutive year, the share between men and women is half-half, which is great. And there is a state secretary of the Ministry of Social Works, and we have 11% of foreigners, including EU citizens and foreign nationals. If we look into foreigners, that means citizens of the EU versus citizens of third countries, it's like 2 to 1. That means 2/3 of the foreigners are members of the EU, and 1/3 are members or representatives of so-called third countries. If we look into the picture, it's a very young and dynamic sector. The people working in the sector, and their average age of those people is 36.2 years. The age average is increasing, and we are glad that we managed to keep the people, that they stay with us, that they just don't get their first experience, working experience, and don't leave. It's only 9% is managerial structure, so most of the employees are in executive functions, and 60 companies in Slovakia operating the services of shared services, and the Business Center Forum employs almost 38,000 employees of all the number in the shared services. That's why the high the high number. Our economy has slowed down, and the AI and robotization is on increase, and also introduction of different and diverse approaches, and the academic world cannot generate so much talent. So it's a bit slowing down, and the natality is decreasing. So we need to look for more creative ways how to operate. But all in all, the sector keeps on growing. This map is really making me happy. When we were checking all the technological gigs here in the morning, I was telling to Peter that we are not going to see the map of Slovakia in 2 years because the companies, for the time being, are more concentrated in Bratislava, but we can see that Slovakia starts to be covered by those different companies that establish the shared services. They discover the charm of the regions, and they're looking for ways how to employ qualified staff and qualified people and in other regions. So we are very happy that the Business Service Center helps to bring jobs to regions, to areas where people study, where people have their social networks. The share of services that is offered by business service centers. It's customers, operation, finance, and IT services represent like 2/3, and some on the other side are legal, procurement, engineering, technical, marketing, and human resources. But the really core of the services the centers provide focus on customer operations, finance, audits, IT services. That means support services, sales, etc. Many of you participating in this conference, you know this slide. However, the share changes. And okay, this is a little quiz. Japanese was considered to be something very exceptional that was used in the service centers. And there's one more very special language, Azerbaijanese, from Holcim Košice, and they support their branch in Azerbaijan. So they are actually able to recruit people speaking this language. So they not only know the systems, not only they are good in finance and accounting or IT, but on the top of that, they speak English, Azerbaijanese, or other world language. Of course, the core is English 100%. Then Italian, German, French, Spanish. This is the core, and disregarding the fact that whether we are talking about companies supporting regional structures or customers or working on a global level. Business Service Center Forum, or the companies united in those business service centers, are very important contributors to the state budget. Thanks to the Ministry of Economy, we managed to calculate how much do they chip into the state budget. And if I'm not wrong, 3.6% is this year. So 3.6% of the state budget this year was generated by the sector, and this is then spent by the parliamentaries and the civil servants, and this is given by the fact that the salaries keep on growing in the sector. From 2017 until 2022, the growth in the salaries in pay is dramatic, 6.5%. Somebody might say, well, that's nothing, but the jump and the leap is almost 18% between those 2 years. There are different reasons. Some of the companies reacted to the inflation. That means they increased salaries in order to keep talent and reflect on the inflation and situation. On the other hand, there have been a couple of new companies that have joined, and they have brought in senior positions, and you need to pay for senior positions and senior staff, and this has changed the landscape. And when I was preparing for this address, I was looking into the average pay in our economy, 1,670 euro, were the 2 biggest sector. If we look into the split, it's IT 2,400 and banking finance 2,415 is the average salary in those 2 sectors. And many of the services offered by the service centers are banking, finance, and IT services. And so it makes sense, this picture. When we look into the global numbers, how much do we contribute into the state budget? Those numbers represent corporate taxes, employee income tax, that social security, that means health insurance, social pension funds, and other funds collected by the state. And what's interesting is that last year we crossed 1 billion, and now it's 1,100,000,000 this year. So this sector is really able to pay and appreciate people who are working in it. Of course, it's not all rosy and beautiful and perfect. There are some challenges. If we look into the situation in 2022, what were the biggest challenges that we needed to deal with? 44% of members expect further centralization of services provided for their sister, mother, or daughter companies, and they will bring new positions to Slovakia. However, some companies are already looking into the fact that there will be very little change, and they are rather thinking about bringing more investments and new services to Slovakia. If there are any representatives of real estate departments, you can feel relieved. 76% of the companies said that they expect no major change in their office space, so relax. And they said that they will be able to maintain it for the comfort of their employees, and we are talking about the horizon of 2 to 3 years. So no big changes expected in that field. What is, however, not such good piece of news is that 73% of companies declare that the recent inflation has increased their operational costs dramatically. Well, I have mentioned inflation already. That is a global thing. The companies needed to increase pay in order to keep talent. But what's here, 28% of our members say that they see that their customers are losing the purchase power. So their customers are suffering from the economic crisis, and they are starting to reevaluate and reassess the scope of services they are contracting, and so they are looking into the future. Automation, it's a huge topic. This is quite an illustrative picture. We are touching the AI, and while AI for many is a great unknown to Hollywood companies and Hollywood movies, it's rather a scarecrow than a challenge. But if we look into what our members say, 46% of our members plan to automate more than 10% of their processes within 2 to 3 years, and half of the companies have not set the target yet, not because they are not ambitious, but they want to maximize the potential of automation, AI, etc. So they are waiting. Automation is already working. 61% of companies claim that introducing AI or the RPA processes solutions have increased their efficiency and actually helps them to justify or qualify why the companies are staying in Slovakia and why they continue in what they have been doing so far. What's good news for Slovakia is that 31% of the members say that the AI RPA tools already lead to creation of new jobs in Slovakia. This is kind of a standard mantra. Automation and AI is going to deprive us of jobs. So we will all lose jobs, and there will be so many unemployed. But this is just the contrary. AI and RPA tools really create new jobs. So we shouldn't be scared of it. We should embrace it, and we should tap onto the potential of AI and RPA. Another kind of cliché is that lifelong education is not working in Slovakia. But I say that BSCF is completely the
zavedené
opposite.
alebo rozbiehajú
Two-thirds of our
tréninkové
companies
programy,
are
ktoré v
considering
podstate
or
slúžia na
have
to, aby
already
sa
implemented
zamestnanci
instruments
dovzdelali, aby zamestnanci
in
si zvýšili
reskilling or
kvalifikáciu,
upskilling
boli pripravení
training
na nové
programs
výzvy
in
pracovného
lifelong
trhu, ktoré
learning in
prichádzajú.
order
Takže ak
they
niekto hovorí, že
can
celoživotné
embrace the
vzdelávanie
new
nefunguje,
challenges of
kľudne
labor
príďte za nami
market.
a
So
povieme,
if you
ako sa
say
dá
that
z toho
lifelong
pustiť,
learning is
ako
not
sa
working,
ľudí
come to me
postihnúť.
and I will tell you what to do in order it
Pracovná
starts
sila,
working.
alebo teda ľudský kapitál,
HR
je to, čo samozrejme
is
nás najviac zaujíma, pretože v podstate
of most
je toto
interest to us,
ten
of course,
najdôležitejší,
because that's the most
najvzácnejší
important, the most
zdroj, ktorý
precious
centrálne
resource
majú.
the
Keď sa pozrieme na to, 90% firiem
BSCs
hovorí, že
have.
nedostatok
95% of the
kvalifikovaných
companies
pracovných
say
síl je
that
práve
lack
tou
of
brzdou
skilled
ďalšieho rozvoja.
labor
Oni by sa chceli
is
možno rozvíjať
actually
rýchlejšie,
hampering their
možno by chceli
future
prinášať nové
development.
veci, ale keďže
They would
nenachádzajú
like to
dostatočne
progress
kvalifikovaných
more
ľudí na trhu, musia tých ľudí
faster
buď prijať,
and bring new
nejakým spôsobom
innovations,
doškoliť,
but
rekvalifikovať,
since
až potom
there
budú
is
tieto
lack of
služby
skilled
zavádzať.
resources,
Je
they
to
need
pre
to
nich
hire
dosť
people,
dosť
then
veľká
requalify the people, and
bariéra.
that's quite a
Ten
burden for
človek teraz,
them.
keď som tam ten obrazok dal, tak
And
som
when
rozmýšľal, že
I
prichádza z toho
put in this
zahraničia, vracia sa
slide,
domov,
I
alebo
was
odchádza
thinking,
na
like, is this
vlastnú
person
spoločnosť,
coming
nech si-
from
nech si-
abroad,
nech si
leaving
urobí svoj
abroad
vlastný obraz.
to foreign country or whatever? So make
Dobrá
your
správa
own
pre
guess.
zamestnancov.
Good
94%
news
firiem
for
povedalo, že
employees.
v budúcom
95%
roku
of
bude
members
zvyšovať plat.
said that they
Takže
are
ak sú to
going
nejakí
to,
zamestnanci, chcete
they're
sociálnych
planning a
služieb, je to
pay
dobrá správa pre vás.
rise
Bude
for the
valorizácia,
employees. So,
dokonca
hey, this is good
75%
news, guys, for you.
74%
And
očakáva, že
74%
nielen platy
actually
budú
expect
rásť,
that
ale
not
bude
only
rásť aj
salaries
headcount.
are going
Takže
to
dúfam, že
grow, but
na
also the
budúci rok
headcount.
budeme
So
zase môcť
let's
povedať, že
expect
troška
that,
porastie, čo sa týka
and let's
počtu
hope that next year
zamestnancov.
at our annual conference we will be able to say that we
Fluktuácia
have
v rámci
grown
centier
yet
je
again.
10%.
Overall
Ja nechcem
attrition
kradnúť dáta Peťovi
rate
Mrenkovi,
is
že Peťo,
about
vidíš ho?
10%. I'm
On
not
má
going to
prezentáciu,
steal
mám povedať viac
data to
detailov, ale
Peter.
Peťo vám povie, že 10%
Peter will shed
nie
more
je
light
zlé,
on,
že je to
on
naozaj
this, and
exkluzívne,
Peter
dobré
will
číslo.
explain that this
Je
is
to
an
zdravá-
exclusive
zdravá
number. This is a
fluktuácia,
healthy
prináša to
fluctuation,
možnosti nových
and
myšlienok,
it
nových
brings
nápadov
the
a
opportunity
obmieniať
to
takú
get
krv v
new
rámci
new
tých
people,
centier,
new
ale stále to má
ideas.
tým
It's
centrám byť
refreshing,
udržateľné
and
a
it
pomáha
still
ďalej sa rozvíjať.
helps the centers to be sustainable and
Až
grow.
polovica firiem uvádza, že
Half of
ich
the
zamestnanci,
companies
stále
indicate
pracujú
that
z domu v
their
nejakom hybridnom
employees
modeli.
work in hybrid mode. So that they
Je to
combine
daný,
home
ten
office
sektor je
with
technologicky
office
vyspelý,
hours.
má
This is
možnosti,
technologically
ako
advanced
ľuďom
area,
umožniť
and it has all the
kvalitatívne
opportunities
pracovať
how
z ktoréhokoľvek miesta
to
na
that it
Slovensku
can
Slovenskej
really
republike.
secure for its
Bohužiaľ, toto je
employees
taká troška
to
politická
work
téma, potom
basically
pánom
anywhere in
Štefanom
Slovakia
v tom paneli, že ako
for the
umožniť,
companies.
alebo ako
However,
presvedčiť
this is
Európsku
a
úniu, že
bit
tento nemusí
problematic
zostať na Slovensku,
that
môže pracovať pre firmu a môže
so
byť
far
bohužiaľ,
from the
Európska
labor code and labor law perspective, because the EU doesn't allow the employees to work from other country but Slovakia so far. We have great responsibility towards the environment and sustainability. The companies compare their CO2 emissions, and many of you, when I talk to you, you have been complaining that you cannot fly anymore. They need to use trains or bikes because their companies have dramatic targets when it comes to cutting on CO2 emissions. What's important for us, and good news for Slovakia, is that 71% of our members in Slovakia will be the centers that will focus on the questions of sustainability and ESG from Slovakia. So they are not only going to do reporting and auditing from Slovakia, but they are going to be innovators in their own companies. I was telling this at the beginning, without members and without support of all our members, the BSCF would not exist. And when I remember Wade Bays, Alan King, and Jake Slager came with this idea 10 years ago, okay, let's establish business shared services forum. We were like, okay, we may try, but look at this, we have 39 companies, and I'm very little ambitious. There's only one free room here on my slide. Petr Rusinak has 3 more rooms, or room for 3 more people, companies, sorry. So the biggest thanks go to AmCham, that is the driving engine behind BSCF, the Ministry of Economy, ITI Association, SARIO as the organization under the Ministry of Economy, and of course huge thanks goes to 6 faculties that work with us on employment. who led our experts into their educational processes and implement the training courses that are already accredited, and they introduce them into their curricula because they know that the employees need to have skills that are needed in labor market. And if you wanted to know more about BSC Forum, and not only once a year, you will always find us on LinkedIn, Facebook. We do have a webpage, BSCF, where you can find some fresh information. Stay loyal, please. Thank you very much for your attention. I am Gabriel Galgozzi. I am the chairperson of the BSCF, and I hope this is going to be very pleasant day for all of us. And if I may ask the director to play us one video. BSCF is a unique project of AmCham in Slovakia, and our colleagues from other AmChams are kind of envious. And Susan Denker, who is CEO AmCham EU, sent us a short video message. She wanted to come to Slovakia, but unfortunately she couldn't, so over to her.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Susan Danger, delighted to be here. Thank you for the great opening. I'm the CEO of the American Chamber of Commerce of the EU, but also the chair of the AmChams in Europe network, and it's an absolute pleasure to be able to speak to you today and discuss the trends of the business services industry in Slovakia, as well as its importance for the country's economy. I would like to thank heartily AmCham Slovakia's leadership for inviting me here today. And in particular, I'd like to highlight the great working relationship that we at AmCham EU have had with AmCham Slovakia for many years, and now in particular under the leadership of Martina Slovakia and also, of course, Peter Rusinak. I'd also like to thank the leadership of the Business Service Centre Forum for their outstanding annual research on business centres in the country. Now, I do apologise for not being able to speak in person with you this morning and to be in Slovakia, as I'm currently at the AmChams in Europe network 60th anniversary conference in Athens, Greece. This umbrella organisation, also known as ACE, represents 46 American chambers of commerce from 44 countries throughout both Europe and Eurasia. As the chair of this great network, my role is to strengthen the AmCham brand throughout Europe and the US. Well, that's part of my role, because by strengthening the brand, we also promote the importance of the transatlantic economy in both Europe and the United States. ACE, this network, also acts as an open space where the AmChams can share best practices and discuss the most pressing issues facing the transatlantic business environment. Now, with my other hat on, the American Chamber of Commerce of the European Union, based in Brussels, is a proud member of ACE also. We speak there for more than 160 American companies committed to and invested in Europe. And our two primary objectives are, one, building a stronger European Union, and secondly, it's to maintain and strengthen the transatlantic relationship. AmCham Slovakia is also a really cherished member of the ACE network. And like us, I believe that you also aim to incentivize a more thriving economy in the European Union, and of course, particularly in Slovakia. And that is why you and we are all here today. As the country approaches elections, it is more important than ever to have these discussions and to encourage sustainable and innovative change. By fomenting these efforts, we can ensure continued economic growth and stability across Slovakia's greatest industries, and I stress stability. For instance, the business centre industry alone has an outstanding weight in your country's economy, as it contributes annually to 3.9% of the state's budget and employs more than 40,000 workers. To maintain and strengthen its economic might, we must all create a stable and predictable business environment based on open and fair market policies, and these efforts must extend beyond national borders. The success of the European Union and its member states is highly intertwined. For instance, Slovakia has the highest trade rates within the European Union, with 79% of its exports going to other member states and 80% of its imports entering from other EU countries. But we live in a global economy and our dependencies extend even beyond the EU borders. In the case of Slovakia, it is also highly interlinked with the US's economy, which provides more than 750 million euros per year in FDI and sustains more than 45,000 jobs. Thus, Slovakia really needs to encourage a closer and stronger European Union, as well as cooperate with partners such as the United States. We must aim to avoid fragmentation and support an outward-looking strategy, one that strengthens the EU single market and one which prioritises simplicity, predictability and consistency with existing regulations. We believe that this is the recipe for success. So with that, thank you all very much for your attention. Thank you once again for inviting me to be part of the conference. I will leave you to enjoy the great lineup that's in store for you today, and I will say goodbye for now from Athens, Greece. Enjoy the conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan, for your kind words and encouraging words indeed. Let me now invite to the stage the State Secretary of the Ministry of Economy, Peter Švec. I mentioned Ministry of Economy several times in my speech. With the Ministry of Economy, we have really very close cooperation across all levels, including the State Secretary here. So, State Secretary, please let me invite you to this hot chair on the stage. Do welcome. Good morning. Thank you. Let me remind you, we have Slido application, #BSCF, so feel free to ask any questions. If you have any questions, you in the audience, and if you're not afraid, please, you can even raise your hand. We give you the microphone, and we will be discussing with State Secretary. So, dear State Secretary, what's your reaction to the figures you saw, the statistics? Well, good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to this pleasant company. I have slight stage fright seeing so many excellent people with excellent stories. Some of you I know personally, some of the companies I know thanks to my career as a journalist in the past, later working in the food industry and then in the automotive industry. So I know some of you. Of course, the picture is totally different now as a State Secretary in the Ministry of Economy from October last year. So the perspective differs dramatically. On Sunday is going to be 1 year since I've been looking at you and the economy with a very different perspective and very different responsibility on my shoulders, of course. With the presentation that I saw, I have a huge respect, really. As my Czech friends say, hats off to you, and I very much appreciate the initiative of AmCham that I regard, without being too positive or too encouraging. You are the best chamber. You're the best chamber of commerce. I've worked for a couple of years in the French Chamber of Commerce, in your partnering organization, where we perceived you, AmCham, as a huge inspiration for French Chamber of Commerce, by the way. And this is one of the perfect outputs of your quality international work. So I really greatly appreciate what you do. And the whole presentation, one thing that really was exciting to see was the map of Slovakia, and I really am excited about shifting of these activities to the east of Slovakia. I myself am from the very eastern point of Slovak Republic, and I also agree that not everything should be happening in Bratislava. Quite the other way around. I'm always excited for any innovative and R&D activities and these sort of activities that you represent with higher added value when they are taking place in the regions, not only in the capital. Thank you so much. Kind words. We appreciate that. It's really sweet music to our ears, indeed. We really appreciate all our members to expand to the east from the capital. If you look at the leaflets or brochures that you have on your chairs, a number of companies started their operation in Bratislava. Now, today, they're operating in Banská Bystrica or Košice, so they flew all around the country, so to say, metaphorically speaking. What we believe is an interesting opportunity for Slovakia, maybe a little wasted opportunity, is the second wave of investment. You know, today, when you look at the business services centers or potential investors in general who are entering Slovakia, we will be talking about this, by the way, in later panels. The brand of Slovakia towards the investors is not a very successful brand. You know it yourself. You meet with investors, indeed. We do see opportunity, and many of our members agree that when a company has already invested in Slovakia, they opened a shared service center or a plant, you know, bringing consolidation to Slovakia is an upgrade. It's an upgrade of an investment, you know, consolidating of these services. What's the perspective of the Ministry of Economy? Is it something where we could find some, you know, some overlap, some cooperation, or how to encourage these consolidating investments? And, you know, looking at this value chain, could we raise these kinds of investments from plants, manufacturing plants, to something to higher added value, with all respects to plants, of course? Well, yes, I can only agree with the content you've just outlined. I believe we have a similar perspective on the issue. I mean, since 1st of October last year, I've been in my position, and somehow I've seen the development before. Now I see it with very different eyes, with very different responsibilities on my shoulders. And it is true that foreign investors start to perceive us as a country not entirely positive only. And after the first wave of investments, the second wave of investments is perhaps more careful. The reason is the long proceedings of various types, construction, certification proceedings, licensing of all sorts. One of the urgent problems we're facing is also, with regards to new investments, that there are cases where you have an ambitious investor coming in, they're hiring employees, several thousands of employees, even when they face the reality of the labor market and all the challenges of the labor market, they are forced to correct or adjust their original plans. And I don't want to say how many investors do not include Slovakia in their long list, because we might not even know about it, but we know about some cases at least, and we're trying to amend that. Let me put it this way: the first priority is to serve the investors who are already here or who are in the pipeline. And this was one of the first interdepartmental initiatives of the first leadership of the ministry after we started work with the former minister Karel Hirman, and with great support of previous Prime Minister Eduard Heger, that we created intra-departmental group for strategic investments. We're meeting 2 times a week. And one of the general directors in my ministry, he said, this is the first interdepartmental group that really works. That's what he says. So it's perhaps because we are really serving an important agenda of FDI, and it's covered politically from the top layer, top layer meaning the Prime Minister, whether it's Eduard Heger or today acting Prime Minister Ľudovít Ódor. And our top objective is to make sure that the existing investors who have already announced their investments, so that we create space for them to avoid that any milestones they might communicate, it's communicated we're going to be able to identify those milestones in advance, to fulfill their wishes and their needs in advance. And I'd like to emphasize the great cooperation with the Ministry of Labour and Social Affairs. We really truly cooperate closely and operatively to create the best possible conditions for these investors. But to answer your question, yes, this is certainly a challenge for this country, and the new administration that will come after the elections will have to address this as one of the urgent topics, because the choke points or bottlenecks that we see today may cause that Slovakia as a country might not even get to the long list of the new investments. And that's not a good news for the country. Thank you very much. You started two sort of important topics, so let me just comment on that. The issue of creating jobs or the incoming of new FDIs, secondary FDIs we call them, to a certain degree is related to this well-known topic of brain drain. Young people studying in this country say that they are afraid that they will have no opportunity to find a good job. Perhaps I exaggerate that a little, but they don't really feel like going into the assembly line, working in the assembly line in a factory. But so maybe this is an opportunity to show also to the young people, to the graduates, that Slovakia is ready to fight for these young brains so that they do not leave abroad.
State Secretary, what can the Ministry and the Business Service Center Forum in order to improve the image of Slovakia in the eyes of investors and to get at least that long list, if not closing the deal? Well, the list of your activities that we have seen is so abundant and so rich. If you are going to just continue in what you are doing, and what are your plans in the near future, this is going to be like an oxygen for the economy. And really, the cross-sectoral activities improve the conditions and really enhance the better conditions in the sector. The economy was important for us is to get feedback from you. And I'm not saying this because we are a partner to this event or to your industry, but I'm saying this because what you bring content-wise, and just recently we have met with you and the colleagues from the Ministry of Economy, where we could really hear very many inspirational things from you. And what you do is of great benefit and contribution. And the question is what we can do with it and how efficiently we can adopt them and implement them. And it will be the new government that will have really the competency to change something, because the previous period has been very interesting in the fact that the discussions are much more open now. Now we have the government that are experts, and the discussions are much more open, much more spontaneous. We are not kind of blocked by those attitudes and positions like it's us and them, and we have different perspective on this or that. I don't want to kind of downplay this or look down upon that, but I really need to say, and my colleagues will may confirm or not, and I'm used to. I also have an experience with political nominees, and this is different. So the discussions are open, but the negative of that is that we don't have political coverage and political support. We tried to summon or call the Slovak Parliament to meet to discuss even apolitical topics, purely expert topics, and we did not manage. So the lack of political backing is significant. But to say, to turn attention to you, you are of great inspiration to us, and you were talking about the Ministry of Education and the lack of qualified labor, and also about brain drain from Slovakia. This is great that you are talking with them, but when it comes to the Ministry of Education and the last two ministers, Mr. Butora, Mr. Horecký, both of them understood the problem, what is wrong, the diagnosis, and they were really very thoroughly trying to look for solutions. But for major changes, you need more time and political backing and leverage in order to be able to pursue that and in order to achieve your goal, that we are not going to lose the young people. We need to confirm that this government is experienced and has knowledge and has drive to change things. The previous had courage but no expertise or limited expertise. You have already outlined the fact that brand Slovakia is perceived in kind of a lukewarm way. And if I may paraphrase that from this Tatran, the tiger of Tatras, we ended up in a small little kitten that is just purring in the corners. What to do in order to change this? Well, geopolitically, we have great location. We are member of the EU, member of NATO, of Eurozone. Those factors are very important, but it's not enough.
Ja to poviem tak v skratke, Slovensko
Slovakia
nejakými zdrojmi
doesn't
nerastných
have
surovín,
natural
ani ropu nemáme, ani
resources. We don't have crude oil, or
ani
we
žiadne
neither
nejaké
natural
suroviny tohto
gas
typu,
or any
ale máme
other
talenty.
natural
Máme
resources,
ľudí.
but we have
Ja
talent.
si myslím, že
We have
som
great
to publikoval
people,
nedávno,
capable
možno ste čítali
people,
článok v
and
denníku N, ak
you
môžem
might have
povedať konkrétne
read
médium.
my article in one daily. You should name the daily.
Kde som hovoril o tom, alebo písal o tom, že
I had this article in that daily, and when I was saying that the change of economy into pro-innovation economy is or should be our national interest, because this could make our economy more flexible, more resilient to crises that we have witnessed in past years, and the crisis will be happening. And if we were less, if we were not that dependent on energies from outside, and we were more value-focused, we would pass the crisis in better shape. We don't have good cooperation between academia and the practice or the real life. In the past 2 years, I could have seen really well-working schemes of cooperation between academia or scientific institutions, universities, vocational schools, government, municipalities, and business. And such cooperations do bring great results. And I really believe that in many cases, this helps the given sector to stay competitive. I've seen it in Switzerland. This week, we were in Göteborg, in Volvo, together with Minister, and we visited the scientific park there, and we saw how this cooperation was working perfectly and very well. They started with it 30, 40 years ago. They keep on building it, developing it, and that's what I, either as a journalist or a person working in automotive industry, I was at the birth of so many of such projects, thinking high, with great ambitions, with great goals, but they always somehow vanished. I don't know whether it has to do with our national qualities or, you know, the drive was lost, the projects collapsed, but, you know, in Sweden, Taiwan, in other countries, those corporations work perfectly, and they turn into magnets for innovations and investments. Well, so we shouldn't be the tiger, but we should definitely have the drive to catch up with other countries. What are the most 3 promising industries of Slovakia that will be driving engine of Slovak economy? Well, I think that we need to capitalize or make use of the presence of automotive industry. Some may think, well, we are an assembly line for the rest of the world. Yes, that was the first stage with the first investments from Volkswagen to Volvo. Volvo is just now starting building their plant, but with automotive companies, we have also got influx of hundreds of subcontractors that are much more autonomous when it comes to innovation, R&D, and whatever they can start here. And I was present when one R&D center was opened in Kysuce and another one close to Zvolen. Both of them are connected to automotive industry, and I think we should support this area. And the Ministry of Economy does support them through technological sectors. And I know about more R&D centers that are about to be established, and those projects have a higher value added. Then we can see the rise of the renewables. And I think the renewables or this industry may have future in Slovakia. And also overall the services in general. We could focus on developing services more, and definitely what we lack and where there is room for improvement and progress is tourism. We know it. We see beautiful country mostly, and what I miss is story of those areas, locations, stories that would be attractive to tourists, that would attract them to spend time and discover unknown corners of Slovakia. There are so many beautiful areas like that, and I do believe that we would get many tourists from Western Europe or even from other continents that would like to explore them, but they don't know about it, and there's nothing that would keep them. This is in a nutshell. Those were words of Petr Švec. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation to our conference. We have the last panel on innovations, and we did it on purpose because we want you to stay with us throughout the conference. So please stay with us and listen to the last panel discussion. I recall, as a journalist, when I was participating, when I came to conferences as a journalist, I hated politicians that would just come, deliver their speech and leave. This is not my style. I came here to listen to you, and I'm very much looking forward to listening to all your presentations and discussion with my colleagues. So have a great day. Thank you very much for your invitation, and really make use of this conference. Petr Švec, the State Secretary of the Ministry of Economy, and please don't forget to cast your vote rightly on Saturday.
Thank you so much for this sober perspective. We are in pace, in a fast pace. Please do not take a microphone from our State Secretary. Juraj Káčer, another State Secretary, this time from Ministry of Labour, Social Affairs and Family. Thank you, State Secretary, for accepting the invitation to this hot chair. Economy, work, labour, social affairs, family. State Secretary mentioned also education. Well, we don't really manage to get these people here from Ministry of Education, but hopefully after the Saturday elections, when the citizens cast their votes correctly, hopefully we'll also have a representative of the Ministry of Education with us here. Anyway, your responsibilities: labor, social affairs and family. This means labor force mobility, third country nationals, other nationals. What do you say about the presentation? Well, first of all, thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to the conference. As we said yesterday, our meetings are typically very constructive. we're trying hard. Yes, of course, but it doesn't really make sense to say like this is hundreds of problems we have and the government is bad. I really like the cooperation that you also outline some trajectories and roadmaps where to go. Anyway, the figures you presented are really beautiful. Like, for example, the social insurance company, like 11 billions is the total. So you contribute 400 millions into these 11 billions. That's a beautiful figure. And if you turn it around, that your employees are on average aged 36, these are usually those who don't really take from the social insurance, but they are giving to social insurance accounts. So this is very important contribution to the stability of social services in Slovakia. So thank you. This is a very important sector for Slovakia. As we heard from my colleague from the Ministry of Economy, we need to further develop the sector if there is an interest, and the interest of the mother companies to extend the potential and expand in Slovakia. We certainly should take advantage of that as a country, as a state, together, whether it's me after the 30th of September or anybody else. We certainly should contribute and support this expansion. This morning we had a flash news in the media that this government decision was already approved a couple of days ago. The government realizes that Slovakia is suffering from a lack of labor. We could be talking about whether it's demography, whether it's the educational system, whatever it is. At the end of the day, if the employers don't find the labor, they will leave, especially foreign employers, foreign investors. The good news is that you as a ministry will support the industry, that there will be awarding of national visa to industrial businesses where the lack of labor is perhaps more dramatic than in the BSc sector. We are happy that we have these accelerated proceedings within the scope of licenses or certification for residency permit. Sorry. So what do you have in store? What's in your pipeline for business service centers? Well, let me give you the last couple of figures from the labor market and why the government needs to realize that this positive migration is a must. It's essential, even though we are a bit overslept, if you know what I mean. So today the employment rate is 77.5%, which is the highest figure historically for the country. So this protectionism for the labor market doesn't really make sense at all. Our objective until 2030, when it comes to DG employment, is around 76.5%. So we basically exceeded the objective. When I meet the other ministers from EU member states, they don't even talk about unemployment. They're talking about employment. So the average is somewhere around 78%, so we're already there. And when you think about the pool of potential opportunities for new employees, it's around 150,000, but these are usually long-term unemployed, disadvantaged individuals, people you need to work with in terms of, socializing and incorporating them into sheltered workshops or social enterprises. So there's not much potential in there, or it's difficult to tap on that potential. But in the social renewal fund, we talk about return of the talent, return of the Slovaks from abroad. The Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs and Families preparing a program, a scheme, by smoothing out the process of welcoming the aliens, the third country nationals, and the national visas. Where we reacted to the requirement from the industry, especially when it comes to long-term vacancies in industry. And I think for you, we have a fast-track scheme in the pipeline, this national visa for highly qualified individuals. There's another advantage there, because this national visa is not only for getting the job, but also for searching the job. So this third country national can come here and search for the job without having an exact employer, agree. We even reduced the difficulty we call it, okay, this must be a university graduate, etc., etc. But we reduce this requirement for IT sector, which means also you perhaps, that in some countries this person can actually get a graduation in 3 years or even less. It doesn't have to be a master student or master graduate, sorry. So it can be a bachelor, or there are different levels of university education in third countries. It doesn't have to be master automatically. When it comes to standard permits for third country nationals, we have just interdepartmental comments procedure that has just finished. Of course, since we are an acting government or caretaker government, so we are just preparing this material for the future proper government. We want to implement, if possible, transpose the directive on blue cards. Well, we will have to transpose it, but the question is in what extent it's going to be transposed. And this should be a process that should significantly accelerate the proceedings, whether it's temporary residence proceedings or the blue cards proceedings. Maybe some of you have the experience with this. At the moment, if there is some visa obligation, this person needs to go to the representation of the country. They go to alien police. The alien police talks to the Ministry of Labor. Ministry of Labor conducts labor market research, and then let's say that the labor office rejects, because this is not a profession which is in need, in demand. So time is lost. The person lost, a few weeks of their time, and the company wasted its resources. So in the future, the employer will send a demand for vacancies with the names of potential third country nationals. The labor office says yes or no. This is going to be electronically or digitally sent to the embassy of the respective country, also to the alliance police. So the police already knows, and this third country national travels to Slovakia basically with certainty of getting the permit. So the proceedings will be accelerated because you don't have to communicate with Ministry of Labor 2 times or the labor offices. So overall, this is a fast track, really. This could significantly help. It's going to be digitally communicated to the employer or the specific alliance police department. So the whole process is going to be much more streamlined. I have to say that I'm surprised myself whether I'm thinking about if I'm asleep or if I'm awake, because these are things which are really sweet music to our ears. This is what we've been calling for as employers. This is what the employers perceive, and also talking to other state secretaries here. Since these are foreign companies with experience from other markets, other continents, we know where these things work well, talking about permit proceedings or communication with the authorities. The digitalization of state administration is really a great thing. And if this is going to work like you outlined, if this is going to be passed through the parliament, because that's a big question, then it's a huge step ahead. It's a huge help for the employers to overcome this shortage of labor. Well, we need to be optimistic. When I was general director of social insurance company 2 years ago, when I came there and I saw which is the most frequently repeated process with most burden for citizens and employers, is the labor incapacity of labor, when you're sick. This was during COVID. So I thought, let's save time to employers and doctors. When I'm sick, I have no capacity to run to the social insurance, to my employers. So I thought, this is impossible. These are 20 software suppliers in social insurance company, various outpatient clinics and Ministry of Health with further systems and portals. And it was impossible. They told me it was impossible. Well, then the generation changed at the social insurance company, and now it's ready. They said it wasn't possible. Now it is possible. I don't I don't want to be so negativist, The things we're talking about today is going to be a reality. I mean, it's essential. I mean, the state realizes someone needs to pay social contributions. If you want to valorize the pensions, someone's got to pay the bill, So if whatever the government is, I think they will realize this is a necessity.
We're very happy, and we hope that you will be able to implement those ideas in the future. I believe there is a question from Slido. Which state institution should strategically manage the human capital? Very difficult question, but let's be ambitious. The Ministry of Labor. Well, let me start from the other side. Before, the labor offices were focusing only on unemployed, and people were coming to labor office only due to take and to collect their unemployment benefit. Now the labor offices are changing and transforming, and we have, for instance, introduced the alliance of sectoral councils, which is the Ministry of Labor, Education, employers, or the associations of employers and employees that should together analyze the labor market needs so that the curricula in the schools could be fine-tuned and could correspond to the needs of the labor market. And this is the management of human capital, that we look into what we need in 3, 7, 10 years from now, and then the competent and the relevant ministries and employers and employees sit at one table and think about how the educational system should look like. It should be very flexible, but this is the way how things could be managed. And at the same time, the Ministry of Labor, when it comes to allocation of the EU funds, for the first time did the following, that not only the unemployed were funded, but also about 85 million were geared towards employed staff in order to increase their resilience, in order to increase their skills. And this should be reflected in the new program period in Slovakia, and money should be geared towards IT, automation, development. Well, but we need to structure it in the way that the education is happening within the process, the working process. Because if you were to go for additional training after your work time, probably that wouldn't work. But I'm rather positive. Increasing qualification in our sector is just a standard that we are trying to create the conditions and encourage the people and help them realize that this is their own responsibility in order to keep jobs. State Secretary, I want to hear your opinion. In the past, I have asked various top representatives of the Ministry of Labor that the following: shouldn't your ministry be a bit harsher with the Ministry of Education? And not only wait until the people who graduate from schools don't get unemployed and only then you start dealing with those people? Well, before we were working on silo principle, and often the ministries were basically the biggest enemies one to another, and each and every ministry was kind of trying to protect their own field, and the silo approach needs to be completely eliminated. But now the cooperation between our ministry and the Ministry of Education is very good, and we have created this group and this platform where we share experiences, and this is great because we already realize and that if young people don't get further training, don't get employment, etc., then all this money that is needed for working with unemployed or with underqualified labor could have been geared towards education if more prevention had been done. What would you recommend to our industry, how it should work, how employment of foreigners should work? Now that you get a list of employees and the local labor officers, yes or no, what does the industry should do in order this becomes reality after the elections? Because you have said that this is already ready somewhere on the table, and it only depends on political representations. Well, could we help somehow? Well, definitely you are members of employers' associations, and there is a great room, I believe, when it comes to economic and social council. That's where you can participate in the process. It has gone through the commenting procedure by individual ministries. There were no major objections in this stage of the process. But of course, not only you can sit at one table with the councils, but you can approach media and tripartite. That's another possibility. Do we have higher requirements on foreign employees than our neighboring countries? Does Poland or Hungary, do you think that in Poland or Hungary, do the foreigners have better life or easier life when they want to come to Poland and Hungary to work? Are we gold-plating here? Do we want Nobel Prize winners and 700 certificates from a foreigner if he or she wants to come to work in Slovakia? Yes. Well, we are kind of a sleeping beauty, and we are catching up. But when we are discussing, for instance, with Hungarian partners, we are not really doing that bad, but neither that good. What to do in order to grow? Well, I think that we are growing and we will be growing. This overprotective approach needs to be eliminated. And I think that people have got it or are getting it, that we cannot keep the labor market closed. From the Resilience and Recovery Plan, there is this plan to get 12 stop shops. And you are paying well, and often the potential investors or potential entities don't know what to do with payroll deductions, with many legislative requirements, and those one-stop shops that should be established under the resilience plan should help any investors, any business entities that want to employ people from third countries or foreigners. So I'm still positive. Well, thank you very much. There is an open hand and offer from our side. If you are going to launch this and kick this off, we will definitely like to help you with communication, with promotion, and with spreading the word, so to say. And we have been saying before that maybe some Slovaks would like to come back from abroad, but they are afraid if they are going to be able to get good employment. Okay, but maybe they can get a good employment and good job, but how to enroll their kid into school or kindergarten? Maybe we find it very easy, but somebody who has been living outside for 17 years can be very confused and wary of those processes. So we very much hope that the AmCham will be your of assistance in deploying those solutions, those tools, and if you where to ask for something from us, for any kind of assistance or help or support. What could we do for you? What would you appreciate as the State Secretary of the Ministry of Labor? Well, experience sharing. If you say that 11% of your people, of your staff, is from the EU or third countries, what are the barriers? Why their friends don't decide to come to Slovakia? Where do they see the biggest problems, be it from the perspective of education or healthcare? We know that there are those problems, but sometimes those may be small things that can be overcome easily, but we don't know about them. So sharing your best practice is currently the most precious thing, said Juraj Káčer, Deputy Minister, Ministry of Labor, Social Affairs and Family of the Slovak Republic. Thank you for coming. And thank you for your last words and for everything you do for us. And we hope that we will be able to continue. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your invitation, and my first real job was in the business shared service centers. So as you can see, our shared service centers generate deputy ministers. And before we change the stage for our next panel discussion, how do you like the conference? Are you sleeping? Are you dozing off? Or what's going on? I hope that at least this information is interesting for you. We have been saying how beautiful we are, how it is greatly working, and maybe we have labeled some of the problems, but now we will get two very esteemed speakers. I keep on meeting them at different forums and I exchange information with them, and I want to be honest with you. I am a bit afraid of what we are going to say about the business shared service centers because they have the bird perspective. Let me welcome Sonal Tival-Regan, Director of Swiss Re.
Just for your information, we will switch to English, so now please. Don't worry. Thank you very much. Welcome. And my second speaker will be Tom Barnhardt, CEO Europe Business Service Center Association. Tom, welcome. See you again. Thank you very much. Please take a seat. If you can switch seats. Just to sit under your picture, not to confuse people, because we are well,
you know who calls the shots now.
If Sonal's husband is watching, he will be like, "Oh, what the heck, right?" We're streaming this conference over the internet because not everybody can unfortunately come. Sonal, Tom, thanks very much for accepting our invitation. As I said in the intro into this panel, we spoke about the Business Service Center Forum, how wonderful, nice, and I would say rosy, nice future is in front of us. However, you hopefully will give us different perspective. If it's positive, good, thanks very much. We don't mind really being somehow recognized and appreciated, but we would like to really see the naked truth, if I can use it this way, right? Tom, I will probably start with you, if you don't mind. Okay. You CEO European Business Service Association, so it means that hopefully you know how the situation of our business services looks in a different countries.
I'll give you the 1 minute intro of what I'm doing. So I'm based in Poland for many years, for 25 years, and lived in Budapest before that for a few years. So I know the region very well. I travel the region a lot, and I've been focusing on the business services sector from a media perspective for about 15 years. So we organize events and conferences. Many of you have been to some of our events in Poland. Usually it's a 2-day event, 2-day conference plus evening awards gala. We have business directories. We have a website, a newsletter that comes out every week. All of it's focused on Central Eastern Europe. So I'm indifferent to the region, whether it's Poland or Slovakia or Hungary. For me, it's Central Europe. And what we usually do is position ourselves as sort of being a first point of contact with new investors coming in, and they might want to meet someone from Krakow or from Lithuania or from Cluj, and we sort of do a first introduction, and that's a lot of what we do. So I then attend lots of other events around Europe for the sector, SSON type of things, ABSL events, different places, our own events, and then we in addition to our flagship event, we organize what might be very strange, but we do teeny wine tastings, niche events in 5 or 6 cities in the region, which are becoming bigger half-day conferences next year, bringing in, matching foreign investors to a city. So we would match up Krakow with Switzerland, for example, or Gdańsk with Denmark, for example. And then we are doing beach volleyball tournaments for your players on the team. So we started this in Warsaw 5 years ago with 2 teams. We have 46 teams this summer in 5 cities, and so that'll keep continuing, hopefully have 100 next year. So yeah, we know a lot about the sector and trying to stay plugged into it. I don't work in a shared service center, so I'm not, definitely don't know as deeply a specific subject as you guys do, but we have a pretty good pulse of what's happening in the market and perceptions of the Central European region. So that's quick background. Thanks for inviting me. I think I was here 5 years ago or something.
That is correct.
It's great to be back again. I actually was in Zurich this morning because we did a small event last night for Swiss investors looking at Central Europe as an expansion. Teeny event, maybe there were 25 companies there, but that's a little bit of what we do. So you mentioned kind of a negative point of it. Let's start with the positive. I mean, I think
areas for improvement, let's call it this way, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, the region is definitely globally established as the center for business services in the world. In there maybe is India, but what else is there as a region? I mean, really, a little bit Costa Rica, other part, but I think we should say, look, this is a major, major region. If U.S., Western European companies are looking at setting up, doing this type of service, Central Europe is the name of the game. It's the player in the market, right? So let's start with that as very positive. Then we can drill down to different countries and cities within the region. I think many of the investors look at the cities first before the countries, but let me stop there. It's a lot of stuff there, and then take a breath and hear some comments from Sonal, and we'll come back to the conversation.
Thank you very much. Sonal, you relocated from India to Slovakia. Swiss Re brought you to Slovakia, and we are very thankful and grateful for Swiss Re having you here. How is the perspective of the foreigner living in Slovakia? What were your first thoughts coming to Slovakia, and what is the Swiss Re perspective on Slovakia as the country and potential investment, and is Slovakia really still a good place to really do business in?
Thank you. Let me take a step back, right? So I represent an organization, Swiss Re, which has its 3rd largest, almost 2nd largest office in Slovakia, right? So across the globe, this is our 3rd largest office, which actually does mean we believe in what the place had to offer. We've grown over here. And this is like a microcosm of larger Swiss Re. Every business function has a team here. So this is not a back office, a shared service center, but business is getting done out of here for the CEE region, right? So which for me is a testimony in itself in terms of, us believing this is where we need to ramp up. We have exactly the same size organization in India, and these are our 2 BSCs. We have been growing in technology and data largely, and then competing with people for you, AT&T and so on, which meant that while we would have loved to continue to grow in Slovakia, and for that matter, because we wanted to be somewhere in Europe, we have had to open offices in Manchester, Madrid, over the last year or so to be able to have access to a much larger number of people. Like, when you need 200 people in cybersecurity, right? And that's fine, I think. It doesn't take away from the fact that we couldn't hire here, so we hired there. We just needed to hire fast. That's it. Myself, yes. I think it was music to my ears when I heard your ministers talk about, everything that they are doing, because I actually went through a 6-month process and was very patient, and my organization did not change its mind about bringing me here, despite having to wait for 6 months of going through a lot of paperwork and stuff, right? So if you all do this, this is fantastic. I think I am one of your possibly lucky cases, and that's why a great ambassador, because for me, it was not just, as a foreigner, getting the permit and being resilient about that is one thing. It's the integration, right, in society. And just recently we had Slovak economist speak to my leadership team. And he was talking about how many Ukrainians, right, came into the country, but did not come into the workforce. And then they moved on. Or how many foreigners come into the country, but don't stay and move on. And then we realized, yes, the process of immigration, etc. is one part, but the society really being able to integrate them, right, is the other part. And like I said, I got really, really lucky, and I'll forever be grateful to Slovaks for really welcoming me and making me feel that, I'm part of this, the fact that I'm even sitting here. So that's worked, but that's not necessarily everyone's story, right? So I think the government can certainly work on integration piece as well, but we as people in the society can, because those of us who are foreigners, so every time I speak to Mr. Wolfgang, he is, I love Slovakia, right? I'm not going away from here. So there are some of us which have had a really good experience, and would love it and not ever want to go back. But then there are many that go back in 4 months, 6 months, 1 year. So yeah, integration, making it a place where people want to come, right? Like if there's a job in Zurich, London, New York, right? We want to go. We don't have to be Zurich, London, New York, because otherwise some people won't come. But just making it attractive, which is what you kind of referred to earlier, for us to come and stay, right, would work.
Thank you. Tom, I will use this, thank you very much, Sonal, for your kind feedback. I will use this because many investors and many companies, not only in the sector, but obviously outside of the sector, as American Chamber of Commerce, we have multiple other members as well, not being necessarily part of the Business Service Center Forum. Many investors says that the PR marketing and presentation of the countries is much better. Slovakia is probably somewhere at the bottom of the ranking, but once they come to Slovakia, once they settle and they really make an experience, and I believe, Sonal, I can use that, then they can really see the benefit, and really they very much appreciate what Slovakia is offering. Is this your perspective as well, or you hear same from the investors?
Well, I think I'm a bit old school, which is, knock on the doors, show up, meet people. I think that's a lot of it too. A lot of it is you get lucky by being at meetings, being at events, going to things. I don't often see Slovakia at some of the events that I go to. I always see Lithuania. Unbelievable. I think they are the best in the region for promoting themselves as a destination. They're just very active at the right places, the right times. And then we see, on the other hand, PAI, the Polish investment agency, is also not very often there, but a lot of the cities are there. So the city of Krakow is there, the city of Pomerania, Gdańsk is there, or Łódź, for example. We see Cluj at some events. So I think you have to pick and choose some of the right events, but I do think that either it's Sario or the national level or the cities could show up at a few more events around the region, and that helps. I think there's lots of business out there, but it's just like if you don't meet someone and they meet the other person, they talk to them first, and the relationship develops that way, right? So it isn't always a science. It's rather, hey, I met the people from Slovakia at this event, and now we're processing it further, right? So I think there's a bit of a bit could be done on that side, in my opinion.
Can I add to that
Sure.
a little bit? So I just got back from a conference in Copenhagen this last 2 days. It was one of the big five, so it's a consulting firm, right? That had this conference.
It was Deloitte, I can say that.
It's trying not to
come on,
promote.
Tom.
Come on. So there, right? When I sat there, I realized exactly that, right? There was nobody, the organizations from Slovakia weren't there, we were not talking. And the time I've spent here, I've realized one thing about Slovakia, and this is my observation, is you have to get to know it to value it, right? It's very easy to say, we don't take initiative, but or there is not a huge workforce. And then when you work here, you realize there is a huge workforce because people learn international business but do finance jobs, right? So it's possible that this happens. So there's a lot we need to brand ourselves and talk about, because every time something went up there, as countries that we should, be in, you had Romania, Lithuania, Portugal, Slovakia was in the emerging markets, but we were like at the end of the emerging market listing.
Yep.
So how we brand ourselves, but also how we brand ourselves smartly with organizations that actually speak to investors or with the big fives, and where we turn up will actually need a lot more attention.
Yeah. Oh, I would like to really share some private story. My wife is on a conference today in Rotterdam, or this week, and I spoke with her last night, and she happened to really bump on the university job fair in Rotterdam, right? International University Job Fair, so she was interested, she went in. There was very little tiny spot for Slovakia. Slovak University of Technology was there, but Czechs has a big interactive stand, and basically they've been really attracting a lot of students really in Netherlands to really come and explore what Czech universities are really doing, right? So I think that this resonates what you said, and well, Slovakia has to really do a lot from the PR and marketing perspective. Deputy State Secretary said that Slovakia is unfortunately not even long-listed, not even short-listed on some of those. Tom, quick question. You mentioned you pairing cities with Denmark, Lithuania. I didn't hear Slovakia, Bratislava, Košice. What's wrong?
Well, that's why I'm here. We can talk about it, right? Yeah. No, I think I'm joking, but back to the subject from before. I think there's a lot of business out there. I mean, there's always the discussion. There has been for 10 years. Are we at the end of the cycle, or is it a mature business? Yes, it's kind of mature, but it's also growing nicely, and it's evolving. Of course, IT is becoming very big, but there are lots of companies in Western Europe and U.S. That don't know where to start in Central Europe, much less Slovakia or wherever. They don't even know who to talk to in Central Europe. And these might be mid-sized companies that are growing very fast. The big guys have already, let's say, done it. Their Swiss Re is here, or your ExxonMobil. The big guys are in the markets.
Yep.
But there's a huge number of middle market companies that are good size, $500 million to $2 billion companies who could have tremendous savings if you look at the digital transition and SSE type of setup in Central Europe. And then there are the very, very fast IT tech companies who are growing very quickly, also in Western Europe and the US. So there's a tremendous opportunity there. So I think for those of you who think there isn't business out there, if that's ever a thought, I don't believe it at all. There's a lot out there, but you got to meet the right people.
Thank you. So now we have a question from Publicum. You had experience in an Indian Business Service Center, and obviously also you have experience in being in Slovakia. The question is, do you see Indian business centers and Slovak business centers competing for the same business?
No, not fair, that question, but I will still answer it. I don't think so. I think it's just two very different economies and two different scales. So really, we are not competing. What we are from our own experience, and then when I speak to peers who also have bigger setups here as well as in India, or other parts of the world for that matter, because where I came from, this conference was just across various, be it PepsiCo, Johnson & Johnson, so on. I don't think there is a competition. There's enough for everybody, right? Because it's about playing to your strengths, and that's the deal. So for all practical reasons, when I got here, and I've been with Swiss Re for very long, so I should have known, I was amazed by my data and tech setup in Swiss Re Bratislava is much bigger than my data and tech setup in India. India is now, ramping up its data and tech setup, but we had never heard of it, right? I mean, even within Swiss Re, we had never heard of it. So what I'm saying is, no, I really do not think there is competition. If at all there is competition, the competition is going to be around where in Europe would we place the business, because some things have to stay in Europe, be it because of GDPR, be it because of language, be it because of the kind of talent and temperament that we are looking for. It has to stay in Europe. Now, where in Europe you can say there can be a competition, but between India and here, no, it's just very different markets, very different scales. So I don't think I see that as a competition.
Thank you. That's a really nice bridge, Tom, to the second question. How are we competitive in Slovakia in attracting investment into industry vis-a-vis neighboring countries in Central and Eastern Europe?
Yeah, so I'll just give maybe some examples of what, like any country, city, it's like a business. You got to find your niche. You got to define your niche. You got to say what it is, market it, say it 3 times. Say what your brand is, right? Whether it's Coca-Cola, they still spend huge money on advertising, right? I think you see, like Lithuania, as I mentioned before, other cities in Poland, you see Budapest, they're leaning on their manufacturing sector. They've got a big manufacturing base, and they're using those guys first. I think for Slovakia, you could do that. Find your low-hanging fruit, so to speak, would be your existing foreign investors who have a factory here, have an automotive factory here. You know, they know the country. They're used to it. They're ready for it. They're very open to the conversation. Just talk about what can you transition more of your white-collar jobs also, or your IT. It's an easier first question. And then lean on things like proximity to Austria, you know, little things like that. But find whatever those niches are, I would say, and accentuate that.
So not only finding, but also really being able to communicate and present them, right? So and really publicly disclose this is what we are good at, and this is what you can really find here when you come or consider investing in Slovakia, right?
Yeah, and I don't have an answer to your question. I don't know how you would distinguish Slovakia from Hungary or from southern Poland. I mean, from a perspective of a guy sitting in Texas, right? Is there a difference to him? There probably is, but he doesn't know it for sure. And so your job is to distinguish yourself. And I don't have the answer for you, but that's what you guys know better than me.
That's right. Last week, I've been in Košice on Slovakia Tech Forum, which is the largest technology forum in the country. And I met the CEO of Volvo there, and we had a very nice conversation. And one of the things which he said was, everybody keeps asking me what they can do for Volvo, right? And he says, well, this is not how business should work. They should come and say, this is what we offer. Is it good enough, or should we really look for other opportunities, right? So his approach was like, I'm here, company decided to come and is here, but I don't expect a municipality, mayor, or the head of the region or head of the university come and say, what do you need, and I can create it for you. So tell me, and I'll bring it, right? So rather than really offer the catalog and really maybe sort of features, functions which can be done. Is that the way?
So now what do you think? I gave some comments.
No, if I may answer it in a different way. So
Sure.
I did my own little research over the last 2 days, asking people where I was, right? Because you had all of your most of your Fortune 500s representing all of their BSCs across the world. And I kept asking, what made you think, you know, Lithuania or Egypt nowadays, right? Or and so on. And I think I got 3 very concrete answers. So one is cost is a given. We just, I mean, you know, that's table stakes. Let's not even talk about it, and that'll stay, that stays. So one thing they said, what we're looking for is sustainable talent arbitrage, in the sense that I need to know that the education system is going to churn out, you know, the kind of skill sets I need over a longer period of time. I cannot grow today and then next year I have to grow, so I have to go somewhere else, right? Because I do not have the talent pool. So that was one thing that they came back with, is I look for the whole sustainable time. Secondly, how easy does the government make it in order to be there? So Romania, and you know better, but Romania apparently makes it very attractive, right, to be there with the financial incentives that they give for setting up office for the knowledge sector as well, right? Also the ease of being there, right? How quickly can I do this? Now, of course, we cannot do it as easily as China did it when it wanted to grow, and we should not. But how easy is it for me to get there, get access to stuff, and, you know, kind of get it started? And last but not the least, and this is a bit of a volume 3 conversation, not volume 10 conversation, but it'll get there, is how tech savvy is, you know, the workforce or just people, right? Or to what was said earlier, is innovation friendly, right? Because I think everybody and every organization has realized we are going to be in the state of constant disruption, and then we need to be in a place where it's normal to deal with it, you know, not a very structured place.
Excuse me, if I may, when you look at it from your perspective, your company perspective, would you agree with those 3 reasons, that they are really real for Slovakia, and this is real the reason why companies really make the decision and maybe disqualify or prefer some of the countries?
So for us, from a company perspective, yes, like I said, cost is no more the conversation. It has to, you know, we're in the Eurozone, so at the end of the day, if our companies are European, you're not even getting the advantage of your currency.
Correct.
Right? Which some countries do get. Now, having said that, therefore, our only arbitrage really now is talent. And how much access to how much talent I have, and how quickly that talent, is becoming ready for what we need. And when I say what we need, it's the whole structural unemployment question, isn't it? We do have educated people, but do they have the skills that we as companies need? And that's...
I will go back to our discussion with Deputy State Secretary from Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs, because frequently when we talk with academic institution representatives, and Peter can confirm, they frequently say we don't know what businesses need, right? They don't talk to us, or if they talk to us, they ask us, can I have 5? I would say graduates in this field, right? And for them it's very, very difficult, right? So the sectoral council, which Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs is really establishing as a platform for Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Education, as well as the employers, seems to be really good I would say, venue to really exchange information and let academic institutions know, okay, what businesses are really what they need now, what they're looking for 5-10 years from now, and where the technology is probably going, and how the academic system will need to change. Would you agree with that?
So I want to share an example. Yes,
Good.
I would agree with
Okay.
that, and I think AmCham does a good job of bringing people to the table. So when you mentioned that, you'd like to hear what is needed, I was like, yeah, let's do a think tank, and we bring industry with you. But one good example really is what Switzerland does with its apprenticeship program. And I'll leave it on the table since we have 2 ministers here, so maybe it'll land. Is wherein it's not after compulsory education. You don't just have to do university where you're doing, learning 7 different things. You can choose one vocation, and then the way it works is about 4 days a week or 3 days a week, you're working. So basically you choose a vocation. Say I chose finance, right? And then after I chose finance, I will have 2 days a week classes, but 3 days a week, I have to find an apprenticeship for me, and companies have to employ me, so they have also a target.
Okay.
Wherein for 3 days I'm working, right? So by the end of 2 years, you have produced for me somebody, right, who knows how to do the whole finance thing. And the companies have a target. I mean, not that we're doing it very well, but even in Asia, you do have a few countries who do this. But Switzerland does it very well, because then at the end of 2 years, you have a proper, I don't know, an engineer in a particular field, or a finance person, or a technology person with real life skills that we can use, still educated and has a degree, so doesn't have to worry about that. And that I would kind of feel.
Is there any barrier, or does it work in Slovakia?
I haven't seen it promoted as much and working, but then I think many of us are doing this. I mean, our head of HR is here and she could talk to it at some point, but we do the whole, when you're studying, come and, work with us. We have internship programs, etc. We have one company, right? Maybe 4 other companies have that, but unless it's structurally done, you're not systemically addressing it as a problem.
I understand. Tom, there is a question from audience. You mentioned that there are representatives of cities, regions, and universities. Who these people are?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it is the national agency. It's HIPAA or the PAI or whatever it might be. But more often it is the city itself. Like, again, the city of Łódź, for example. By the way, as an aside, again, strategy for marketing, Łódź is often lost in Poland. Not the number 1, number 2, number 3 city, a little bit of the secondary city. And they start marketing themselves as duopolis with Warsaw. It's close enough to Warsaw. They kind of tying themselves together. I mean, that could be a strategy with Vienna. I don't know. I'm just throwing out the idea. Is that a marketing angle for the city? Who attend? It's the cities themselves who have a budget to promote themselves at these events. But a lot of times they bring other ecosystem players who benefit from the sector. That's obviously real estate guys. Anyone develop Penta real estate, Skanska, whoever it might be, developing office buildings. We see more and more of residential marketing at these events as well. People that are consultants, lawyers, accountants in the space, anyone that can make money, recruitment, executive search. So not to give Peter more work, but someone like the AmCham could say, we're going to lead a delegation to X, and you've got to pitch in this amount and someone else, and then all of a sudden you have, because someone's got to drive it. Yeah, that's a hard part. And someone's got to really drive whatever that event might be and say, look, we're going to bring along Kozica, and we're going to bring along Penta, and we're going to bring along the top executive search company in Slovakia, whoever it might be. And then you start to build a bit of an ecosystem around and you reduce your cost of the marketing.
Yep. Since we have only last 2 minutes, the time is flying right crazy. So now you have a chance to talk to government representatives. What would be message from you and from your perspective, how to make Slovakia a better place to do business, how to really make it more sustainable, more marketable, more attractive for investors?
Yeah, so I would, you've talked about the tourism sector and how we need to have stories as to why people need to go to these places. I say overall brand Slovakia needs to have a story, right, that we are coherently being able to market and become a bit more visible about. So that's one. Two is, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, there is a lot that we have to offer that's very different over here. But it's always, you have to peel 2 layers to get to know that. So finding a way that the world gets to know this it's important. And nobody's going to come and ask us that. We are going to have to shout from the mountaintop. So now let's figure that out. So that would be one, the whole brand thing. Secondly, it's wonderful that you're working with making it easier to bring in people from non-Europe countries. Every country needs that. We all know that at some point in their life. But yes, as I mentioned earlier, immigration is one part of it. Integration is the other part of it. Making it a city or a country that foreigners can live in easily, right, is the second part of it. Third is the sector we are in today, the BSCs as such, really is your knowledge sector. As the next generations come in, this is the sector where most of them, right, either you're going to be able to attract people who are working abroad back because of this sector. So effectively, yes, there is, I always hear a lot of focus on the whole automotive piece, and we should, but the whole balance with the knowledge sector to be a country, for a country with the demographics we have, this is the future. So if we can somehow find a way to invest a little bit more in making it attractive for the jobs to come in, for the investment to come in, but for people to reskill in this sector, I would see that as a good way forward. Just 3 messages, that's it.
Thank you. Tom, same question?
No, I think this type of thing is the right way to do it. I don't know how often, if you're doing this annually, but if they're within the year 2 or 3 more things like this, it would bring in more foreign investors and become an annual event. What I see a lot of times around the region, I see it in Poland all the time, they do something one off and then they go away. You can't do that. The first year is painful, second year is difficult. You got to be in the calendar, and you guys are in the calendar here every year. But whatever that might be, again, if you're targeting Swiss or American or Swedish investors or whatever, but get on the calendar every single year and keep coming out to people.
Thank you very much. Sonal Tibarekar, Director Swiss Re, and Tom Barnhart, CEO Europe Business Service Association. Thanks very much for coming and sharing your insights. Thank you very much. Dear ladies and gentlemen, now let's have a short break. Let's see each other in 25 minutes. So enjoy, there is some coffee, some refreshment, and please be here on time because we'll continue with the BSCF award ceremony. Thank you very much. See you later. Vážený pán štátny tajomník, vážené dámy, vážení páni,
Dear State Secretary, dear ladies and gentlemen, we're very happy that you returned here, and specifically now that I see that all chairs are taken and nobody left, that's a good signal for me, and it's an encouraging signal that perhaps we managed to capture your attention. Hopefully this is going to be as well in the second part of the conference. Before we start with the presentations that are scheduled, it's a nice habit that we not only talk about the issues and challenges and potential solutions, but also we stop by and appreciate the incessant work of the people who work throughout the year and help us as an organization and platform to drive and continue ahead. So I'd like to ask Peter Rusiňák to join me here on stage. Peter, I call you secretary of the Business Center Forum. I know you don't like it. If you have a better term for the position that Peter is taking, go ahead and tell me. I'll call him secretary. I'll continue. Peter is the person who works day and night for the Shared Service Centers Forum. He does all the detailed hard work, and he all the more deserves our appreciation. But I want Peter to be here on stage to give award to those who help us. So Martina Markova from Dell, please. Martina, she's coordination of the Train the Trainer program. Train the Trainer is a program dedicated to teachers at secondary schools and universities. Congratulations, Martina. Train the Trainer is a program for teachers of secondary schools and universities where the employees of business service centers and companies who are working for these companies, they train the teachers how their lessons could look like, what skills the employers expect, and Martina does it for the whole Slovakia, for the whole sector. Martina, thank you so much for your hard work. Hopefully you will enjoy this award. Do we have a photographer here? Yes, please. Thank you very much once again. Congratulations, Martina. Thank you. Let me just tell you a bit more. Martina is currently at the maternity leave. However, she still incessantly sends us reminders, coordinates the whole Train the Trainer group. So thanks for your work during your maternity. Well, it's not vacation, it's leave, okay? So during your leave, staying with us and working with us. So hopefully when your baby goes to kindergarten school, you will join us once again. Have a great day. Thank you, Martina. Okay, so this was the first award. The second award goes to the person who is just about to join us. He represents an educational institution that might not directly link to shared service centers. Hopefully, they understand that if the students should succeed in the labor market, if the universities to be successful and be attractive for future students as an institution preparing people for daily life, professional life, they adopted the Skills for Success, an accredited university teaching program. Students can choose it in their curricula. And I'd like to ask Docent Radoma Sabo, PhD, Pro-Dean of Slovak Agriculture University in Nitra, to join us here on stage. He is the liaison officer for Shared Service Center Forum. He helps us with integrating the program into the curricula of universities. Thank you very much. Associate Professor, thank you. He is a true promoter of Skills for Success. Can we ask for a photo again, please? Associate Professor, thank you very much for your trust. Hopefully, you'll have more and more students in the Skills for Success program. All the best to you. And now, third prize, or award, if you like, goes to a colleague who was here when we were founding the Business Services Center Forum. He's been helping, he is helping, he's always ready to help, write a commentary, to help us in any way, contribute in any way. He's active in the Association of Slovak Employers. He's coordinating, he's helping us with contacts to secondary schools and universities. He's the godfather of education for Business Service Forum. So, Martin Martinkovic, please join us on stage. Congratulations, Martin.
Ďakujeme pekne, Martin.
Thank you very much, Martin, for all your work. For those who pay attention, you see that there is one more prize. However, Martin Bednar could not be here right now. We always select from the large group of people who work so hard for Business Centers Forum, so we have this Hall of Fame of BSCF that includes all the people who have contributed and are contributing to our work. So we will certainly give the award to Martin Bednar from Dell later, post hoc, so to say. Hopefully we will have a brief video of Martin's thanking you. Hopefully the prize will make it to his office or his home office, wherever he works. So Martin Bednar and Dell Technologies are a great contribution to this platform, to Business Services Centers Forum. So thanks once again. Peter, thank you for your assistance. So let me now invite to the stage people. Well, I mentioned it in my opening speech when I was presenting the program. Yesterday I was talking with Peter at the speakers' dinner. We were exchanging information, comparing our data and synchronize some of the things. So hopefully Peter will give us a more global perspective on shared service centers. We had a panel discussion, but Peter, as a representative of PwC, is responsible for this regional or even global survey. So Peter Marenka, assurance partner of PwC Slovakia, to tell us more about how the global survey of shared service centers has ended. Peter, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, thanks for the invitation and being guest to this event. So I'd like to present to you a survey which PwC is doing biannually. The survey is conducted with a number of international, global, large GBS centers and talks about their challenges, about their opportunities, the strengths and weaknesses, etc. This survey, unfortunately, is not yet published globally today, but I was given the privilege to talk about the draft results. So no one globally has seen those results, but I was allowed to present some of the data for you. There are lots of statistics, and I do not want to go number by number, but at least mention a couple of the highlights which I believe may be relevant for your comparing of Slovakia versus what the global GBSs do or say about their developments, etc. So let's go to the agenda. And I probably jumped to the first one. So what the study is showing, what it is proving, now still a draft, but let's hope that it will be published in the next month or so. And I was quickly looking for some surprises, some key messages, something which is really like a key takeaway from that study. And surprisingly to me, there was nothing. And I said that that's a bad news for all of us, so that there's nothing which I would see as in terms of the AI or in terms of how to deal with all the people matters, etc. But then I quickly realized that it's good that there are no surprises. And then I was looking, so what is the key message from me for you today in terms of the study? And I realized quickly there are 2-3 key messages from the survey. So it proves that all the global GBS centers are really agile and are adapting to whatever external factors, external circumstances happen in the world. And so really the GBSs are the cornerstone of their corporations, are really the stable piece of the puzzle of the corporations, and they are really able to adapt quickly and very well to all the external circumstances, whether this is a war, whether this is an inflation, whether this is a war for talent, etc. So really the GBSs are the key element of all the corporations, and the speed, how they adapt to all those external factors and external changes is really amazing. The second probably key message from my side is that it's not that the corporations are pushing down any strategies or any kind of initiatives to those GBS centers, but instead those GBSs are the drivers and the leaders in terms of transformation, in terms of the changes. So really the GBSs shall be proud of what they are doing and how they are leading and supporting the corporations to achieve their strategies, whether through innovations or cost efficiency and operational excellence, etc. So probably those two factors are really the key two messages from my side. Obviously, as you look at the slide, it talks about that the GBSs are really the winners from the global crisis. They are the drivers of the improvements, etc. And then all those headaches and issues around the war of talent, etc. Also, what was important or interesting for me to read in that study is that the war for localization of the GBSs continues. And in the past, it was all about Asia and how Asia competes well with Europe. But more and more I see that those corporations are reassessing their strategies in terms of localizations, and they do understand they need to be present in Europe. Obviously, then the second question is where in Europe, and we heard from the previous speakers talking about whether this is Portugal or Lithuania or Poland or any other cities. Usually, and that's also the true for Slovakia and for our network of PwC, when PwC considers where to go, when to localize the next PwC center, probably Slovakia is not on the map, and probably there is much more preference or appetite from those in the US or in Western Europe to go to Poland or probably even back to Portugal or elsewhere. I was also looking at the study and trying to see whether there is something which would show kind of new trends in terms of the artificial intelligence, in terms of the ESG. Those topics haven't been addressed in that study. So now when looking at this leaflet that I have in my hand, I'm very proud of how ambitious the Slovak GBSs are in terms of the focus on the ESG, the focus on artificial intelligence, because the global GBSs are not mentioning this at all in terms of their strategies and their trends. So let's go into the couple of more statistical data, if you allow. So the first one kind of looks back into the past, like how the current challenges were impacted or how they impacted the GBS strategy in terms of the COVID, etc. And probably you will see that there was no impact or just minor operational impacts. And so the GBSs globally say that we survived the COVID, that's all fine, and probably nothing else comes out from that draft survey. Now, when I compare it to what the Slovak GBSs are saying in the AmCham survey, now we are much more interested and focused on let's bring more centralization into Slovakia. So I guess the Slovak centers are more hungry to bring more work and more skills, more talents into the Slovak GBSs, because we do believe that we are talented and we still have opportunities to offer something to our corporations. And probably there is less of that strategy or probably focus in the global GBSs. Obviously, the next question then comes, so what are the main concerns? We talked today a lot about the talent war, so the scarcity of the workforce in all those territories around the globe, and obviously the inflation factors. Now, when I compare those two data, 44% and 29% to, again, what you are all saying in Slovakia, so there is an even more pressure and more war for talent and workforce in Slovakia. And obviously that's connected with obviously the higher cost of the labor force in Slovakia. The second is inflation, and probably I think Gabor mentioned 73% of the centers are suffering from significant inflation pressures in Slovakia compared to, let's say, other territories. Now, I talked just again internally within our network of PwC. I was talking to our friends in Asia, and I asked them, so what are your inflation pressures in Asia? How much are you increasing your service fees or service offerings to your clients in Asia? And they said 0%. They are able to fight with inflation in Asia, and that was Philippines and Malaysia, and they said we are okay to go with 0% for next year. So now how that competes with Europe, how that competes with Slovakia. So again, just in contrast to compare the global GBSs in that part of the world with the situation that we are all fighting in Slovakia. Now, probably, and I skipped the third one when I was reading the study first, but then I realized that to me, one of the interesting points probably for the next couple of years is the next one. So the inability to leverage a digital mindset. And then I was thinking of what this means. And I do believe that probably all of us are quickly rushing into the focus on technology, on automation, on all these RPA solutions, etc., and AI. But the question is, are we only developing new dashboards? Are we only developing new reports? Are we developing the robots to extract the data and process the data? And is it really the end goal of all of us? And so probably in the next few years, what I would like to see is that we are supporting and kind of motivating and stimulating all the employees, that it's not only creating another dashboard, creating another RPA solution just for the sake of creating a solution, but really looking at how that solution will contribute to the efficiency of the GBS, contribution to the corporate, how it will support the streamlining of the processes, because it's not just that we are measuring ourselves by the number of solutions, but really how effective those solutions are to influence the, let's say, corporate results or the corporate headcounts. So that was one of those kind of probably interesting points that are mentioned in the global survey. Now, moving on to the next question, which is in the global survey, how do you expect the economic downturn will impact the GBS organization? So lots of the centers talk about, okay, so we'll bring on new scope into our GBSs, or we will invest into automation, or we will be expected to increase the cost-cutting kind of initiatives. And that's probably all natural, and I guess you all are familiar with these trends. And then probably the other question, which I don't have on the slide, talks about, so probably those three questions define the strategical focus of those GBSs. So probably those centers which are looking at the new scope, they want to be seen in their corporations as the centers of excellence or as the centers of key talents or hubs for talents. And then the questions for those who are looking for new scope is, so tell me, what is the new scope? Yeah. And I was thinking also within our organization and within the portfolio of clients that I am talking to, like, what is the new scope of work for the GBSs today? And to me, the number one by far would be the ESG agenda. And if I may have a dream, or if I may have a wish for all the GBSs, at least those GBSs in Slovakia which are focusing on the finance functions, so not those customer care or the sales side, but at least those finance teams, to really start investing into ESG. It's not because I, as a PwC, have an interest in working with GBSs from the ESG perspective, but I do believe that there is very little other large opportunities for you to develop and to be really recognized in your corporations other than the ESG agenda. So if you really start quickly reacting and preparing yourselves and your GBSs for the ESG agenda, I do believe that this will be the number one trend in the next 5 years. And if you don't catch the train now, then there will be lots of the people in Netherlands or in Poland or elsewhere, and then Slovakia will be left with the traditional functions and processes which are already onboarded or centralized in Slovakia. So again, something at least something for me which would be interesting. The next one talks about the automation, and probably those centers which define their strategies globally as kind of being the leaders in automation technology. Probably they want to be seen or labeled as really the value creators, the value drivers in their corporations, and probably that's still a relevant strategy to be recognized for automation technology, standardization, etc. And then probably the third bucket talks about the GBSs, which probably have reached a state of maturity where they probably are satisfied with what they do for the corporations, and their number one focus, their number one strategy is all about cost efficiency, productivity, operational excellence, etc. Now moving on to the next slide. So the centers, please select which options best describe your GBS strategy. So digitalization, I think I have mentioned it, increased standardization, expansion into more complex and evaluating services, that all has been mentioned. And the numbers will be published later on, so you can benchmark what the global GBSs are saying compared to what is your own strategy or your own interest in the next couple of years. Then obviously, so I have divided the strategy or the presentation into the three buckets. So talking about the current landscape of the GBSs, talking about their future aspirations. Then the second, obviously, section, which is probably the most important for all of us, is the people element, and then the people matters that we are all struggling with and trying to resolve. And then the last part of the presentation is technology. So let's look into the people agenda. So what are the biggest challenges for people and culture within your GBS organization? So obviously, not surprising statement, something which has not changed in the last 2 or 3 years at least. So everybody is looking at the challenge of attracting high-skilled and experienced employees, about setting up the career path, and you can read all those other elements. This is not surprising, obviously, for all of us, and I was thinking, so where are we and how this is impacting us as GBS centers, GBS leaders. I think we cannot do much around demography in Slovakia. Probably for the next 5 to 10 years, the demography is still unfavorable for our GBSs, and probably only in 10 years' time, the kind of intake of new graduates from universities will be more robust than it is nowadays, but we can't wait until 10 years. So probably we need to now rethink how we react to the demography issue that we have in Slovakia. Either we probably go even more aggressive into the automation and standardization and technology, and AI probably will play a significant role, or we need to then bring people from outside, and there was a whole session dedicated to talking about, so with the Ministry of Labor, how we attract people from abroad and how quickly we can immigrate them to Slovakia and then integrate, as was said already. So that's about the challenges there. Then I was looking at the next two slides, which talk about recruiting and then retaining the talent. So the question of recruitment obviously is again not surprising, and what the global GBSs say is probably very similar to what you are saying also in Slovakia. So you are looking at collaboration with universities. You are having different referral programs to bring the new employees through your existing workforce, participation in job fairs. So that's probably not surprising. Now, when I look into like how to recruit, the financial benefits are mentioned there, and non-financial benefits are also an important attraction points to bring the new talents into your positions. However, when I look at probably the next stage, so we have those employees hired either internally or from Slovakia or from abroad and bring those resources from other territories, then the question is how you retain the people. And this was an interesting shift for me in terms of how we promote the companies, how do we promote the GBSs on a global scale, and then what is relevant for those employees when they become an experienced members of our teams. And all of a sudden, the financial and non-financial benefits are probably at the very bottom of the hierarchy of their needs, of their desires. And what this means to me is that once those people are hired, we probably need to reshift our focus and no longer promise the financial reward and non-financial benefits, but it's more about the culture that we set for those employees. It's more about the care that we demonstrate to those employees, so how we communicate, how much we show empathy, etc., how much we support them, how much we allow them to be flexible at work, etc. So that's probably much more important for the existing employees than compared to how we sell and how we brand the GBSs when we are trying to recruit people. One of the very few data that I was comparing globally and here in Slovakia is, so what is the aspiration of bring people back to work instead of working remotely from home? Now the global number is that probably 23% or 25% of the GBSs are supporting the fully remote working from home, or probably the majority of the team spend at home. Now, I guess the Slovak numbers show that the vast majority of the GBSs are still in favor of allowing people to work more from home than coming to work. So probably the GBSs have globally, at least they are saying that they want the people to be back at work. In Slovakia, we are still probably maybe 2 days in average behind what the GBSs globally say, and we still allow people to be working from home more than in other territories. Then this slide talk about, so what are the key skills, and there have been lots of studies done about I'm sorry about, so what are the 3 skills. Now some of the surveys are telling that the key skills are data, so focus on data, so data processing, data analysts, the cybersecurity, so everything around the data and IT. I do believe that this slide probably is something which is much more closer to my personality, to my preferences in terms of what is the skills that we are looking for. And obviously, there are continuous improvements. I think for me personally, and that's my subjective view, I would like to look for skills which are probably in the middle of the range. So looking at people or searching for people who really have that continuous improvement mindset, looking for people who are able to solve problems. Because you can quickly train people to be a data analyst. You can evolve them to be, or upskill them to be processing the data and maybe create some IT solutions, but problem solving as a soft skill, or customer experience, the leadership skill, those are the skills which I believe are much more important, and that's probably where we can be looking for talents, and that's maybe where we can differentiate Slovakia maybe from other countries, if we are kind of targeting and also promoting that we want to be those who are looking for leadership skills, customer care, the communication skills, problem solving, drive, independence, etc., or kind of working independently rather than just the pure data. And then the last part of my presentation, I still have 6 minutes left, so hopefully the time is okay. So looking at the technology, obviously I can show a number of slides about AI and RPA and all those solutions, dashboarding. That's probably more common to you. This slide was interesting for me in terms of how the individual processes are already automated. The automation in the survey meant whether there is a medium or a high degree of automation process by process. So that was the status today. And then the next slide, which I combined here, was showing what is the target. And it's still good and refreshing for me to see that for lots of processes, we still have 20% of that process as a target to further improve compared to where we are today. And obviously, it's interesting to compare process by process. So if you take, for example, legal, the current measure of automation in legal processes is probably 8%, and the ambition is only 11%. So there is not much to improve, or not a big opportunity to automate the legal processes. When you look at accounting or F&P or AHR, probably that's 20+%. Again, ability to contribute to more automations, to more tools, to more technology, AI, intelligence, etc. So again, some interesting data for thinking for you just to take back homes and to your corporations. How is your GBS organization identifying new technologies, tools, again, by process ownership, by IT department? I was glad to see that those technologies are not pushed down from the corporate levels, but that you have the freedom and the ability to lead how you design those technologies and where you plug in those technologies. So again, a big kind of, I'm really proud of what the Slovak GBSs do in terms of being really leading and innovating all those automations or technology tools and bringing them into the processes for the benefit of the corporations. What are some of the more recent strategies you may have adopted to drive digitalization within the GBSs? So lots of digital training and upskilling of the employees, rewards and recognitions to push the digital agenda and running hackathons, etc. So probably something which I was less familiar with. So that's again just to compare how you stand when benchmarking yourselves to some of the global GBSs. And I think that's the last slide that I have prepared for you. Okay, so maybe a summary here. So just in two sections comparing, so what the global corporations expect from the GBSs, globally again. And so I guess their interest is, the corporations do not care about your talent war, your personal issues, your inflation. They want you to really drive efficiency for the corporate processes. They want you to be more efficient and focusing on the cost savings. And obviously they want you to ensure and bring quality into all the processes and all your interactions with your customers. What it means for you from the other side of the barrier, obviously you need to invest in all the technologies, you need to look for talent and upskill the talent or bring the talent from outside, and that's how the GBSs globally respond to all those expectations of their corporations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. That was very insightful, and as you can see, no big difference to what Slovak GBSs or shared services talking or disclosing in our survey. Peter, is there anything which you will, when you look at your survey and the survey which BSCF published, is there anything which really you see a big difference from the global data to Slovak data from the positive side?
I think I mentioned one item which was interesting for me, and that's the turnover.
Okay.
And I have our own PwC data, and I have all those global data. I do believe, and I think it was also on your slide, that the turnover or the fluctuation rate in Slovakia is much less compared to the rest of the CEE and compared to global. if I look at our PwC data, and probably I should not disclose them, but now in Slovakia, the PwC is happy to say that we have a fluctuation around 11% or maybe 12%, which is half of what is the fluctuations for the rest of the PwC network. If I look at these global statistics outside of the PwC, obviously, so all the global GBSs, the fluctuation is somewhere between 20 to 30%, depending by company, by territory. So if we want to be proud of something, and if we want to demonstrate to the corporations and to those who decide about what is relevant or why Slovakia is relevant, then I guess the stability of the teams, the continuance of upskilling the people, the ability to develop a, let's say, 2, 3, 4 years program for those people to really offer some solutions or develop solutions, that's something where we are outstanding or maybe much better than the other territories.
So if I can paraphrase, and I go back to our previous 2 panels, unfortunately. So our own self-marketing, self-promotion, and really giving to our corporation, to our leadership, finance guys inside the companies information that yes, we probably are really more I would say cost or the cost of labor here in Slovakia is higher, but the retention, knowledge transfer, as well as obviously the development is significantly higher, which is really at the end of the day cheaper for the company. Is that
definitely? Yeah.
All right.
I do confirm.
Thank you very much, Peter. Anything to address to government? You still have a state secretary here.
That's a good question. I didn't expect that question. I would like the government obviously to support the education of young people, to really promote for those young graduates who are leaving the universities to stay in Slovakia and to really have sufficient offer in the labor market from the corporate perspective, so that those people stay in Slovakia and continue to developing our businesses, our GBSs.
Thank you very much. Said Peter Mrnka, Assurance Partner, PwC Slovakia. Peter, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I saw many of you really taking picture of the screen, and I understand that you would like to really have this data. Data will be available after the conference. I don't know whether today or maybe tomorrow at the latest. We will load them on a AmCham webpage, so all the presentation, all leaflets, and hopefully even the link to the stream from today will be available, so you can get back to that. If technology works, and I see here on this panel that technology works, our next speaker is remote. So you can see that the Business Service Forum and our business BSCs are really using the technology. Možno, že môžem switchnúť asi do slovenčiny, Martin, že? Používame najnovšie technológie a využívame technológie. Martin je dneska na konferencii Svetovej banky v Prešove, ale bol tak flexibilný, že sme v podstate našli spôsob, ako
It's so flexible that we found a way how to join our conference online. Martin Čbor is the head of Innovation and Strategic Center of Deutsche Telekom in Košice. He's an expert for World Bank when it comes to secondary school education, and Martin has a good insight in how secondary school education or secondary schools are faring when it comes to the subject at hand. Martin, can you hear us? Yes, I can hear. Okay, the connection works. Thank you very much, Martin. The presentation is on your screen. People can see you, people can hear you. Hopefully you can see us. So now you have your time for your presentation is running. Thank you very, very much. I wish you a very pleasant early noon. I'll be speaking in Slovak if you want me. I was asked to present, so hopefully I'll present in Slovak if you don't mind. So I apologize for not being able to be here face to face, but let's try this out. Let's try out the digital channels. It's not only about the threats we keep hearing about from the media. I guess that digital technology is also offering some benefits. So maybe you ask yourself why the World Bank is dedicated its resources to Slovakia and topics like digitalization. Well, very briefly, World Bank is an institution dedicated to developing regions. However, also in Slovak Republic, we have regions that we could classify as developing or catching up regions, as we call them. There are at least 3 regions of this sort. On the other hand, digitalization is perceived by the World Bank as a single topic as a single topic that after such a long time can, redesign the borders between the prospering world and the less prospering world. So after a long time, we've had, resources, we have industry and typical standard economic indicators. Now there's finally something that perhaps does not so much depend on these tangible resources, but still can redesign or redraw the borders. So that's why we look at digitalization as an opportunity. And why education sector? And why in Slovakia? Well, simply because we believe that it is exactly in this sector that we can start doing something, because this sector influences all the other economic sectors, right? And if we do something correctly, if we start from the right end, so to say, it can lead to this ripple effect, this wave, positive wave, positively affecting other sectors and industries. So what we've done in Slovakia was a relatively extensive study where under one roof we had 1,500 teachers, pedagogues, very wide. I'm sorry, Martin, for interrupting you. Could you switch to presentation mode? We only see your slide, but we don't see you changing your slides. Maybe you are sharing a different file? Or maybe I'll share the whole screen. You tell me if you can see it better. Is it better? Yes, that's it. Thank you so much. Okay, excuse me. Zoom pretended to be smarter than I was. Never mind. So, the survey itself, we had a relatively large volume of data. It wasn't our objective to say, like, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys, right? It wasn't our objective to paint a bleak picture. However, we wanted to serve as a mirror reflecting and incentivizing, saying which are the areas where we can improve, what we can do to be better, closer to the ideal situation. So these are the sort of spiderweb charts, as we call them. You can do it also regionally and apply it nationwide. It's all about how to visualize the gap between the desired state and the state that we have today, the situation that be. So what you see here is an average for a group of institutions within big single institutions to make it less personal. What you see here is perhaps a typical factor that we perceive to be applied in Slovakia, and this big average. We're not the worst. We're not the worst. That would be 0. We're not the best. That would be 5. We are in this, gray middle, sometimes around 2.5, 2.6. So real average. If you look at other studies, basically they would offer a similar conclusion. So Slovak institutions are not very far from European average, but we still do lag behind that average, unfortunately. Specifically in DSEI, we are in the last 30%. In this study, the schools that we expect to be leaders, they are not leaders, etc., etc. On the other hand, we've identified practices of the more successful leaders who are dedicated to digitalization, committed to digitalization, and we want to share these practices as recommendations to those who perhaps lag behind a little. Just a side note, I'll be talking about schools, I'll be talking about education system. However, all of these, many of these insights or observations apply also to the commercial corporate world. The first essential thing that differentiates the leaders from the rest of the pack is the understanding that digitization is not just a technological phenomenon, but it's a thing for which you need to process data, analytics, and then you can get added value from it. And we need to work very intensively to work with people, and with people's skills and abilities. And what the real status ask, well, let me just show a couple of challenges we've identified in the survey. There are 15 of them in total, but don't worry, I'll just give you a couple, and then some recommendations. So the first thing, we know a lot about digitization. Companies know about digitization. Schools know about it. However, it is very superficial. We just scratch the surface a little. We never go in depth. So a lot of talking, but very few are able to apply it in their core business process, to get their core operations, and few are really willing to try it out. Second observation, we were asking our respondents, how do you learn, how do you want to apply that? Everybody said that they use a mentor or some kind of digital champion. However, it doesn't really exist in educational sector. There's no one to learn from, no one to observe. Another observation. All of you, or all of us, expect digitization to improve cooperation, improve communication, dynamics. However, relatively few are willing to, leave their comfort zone and create something new, something that might not work on the first time, on the first try, but in cooperation with people from the practice, you can work on it and improve it and make it work. In the context of education, there are approximately only 20% of teachers who cooperate from partners from practice in creating some materials or curricula for digital education. 20% that's not enough. There are better schools, better institutions, they have much higher percentage of these people, and perhaps this makes them more attractive for their target group, target audience. And the biggest challenge we are facing in Slovakia is the load fighting. It's a culture of, help yourself. I can do everything myself, starting from planning, preparation, delivery, trying the whole life cycle. I alone will be working with that. I don't need anyone to support me or help me. It's a philosophical thing, and this is really hurting the country. It's something we need to change, and we need to learn from the good leaders how to overcome this me, myself, and I culture, how to make people work together and look at these innovations in a team. So 2 or 3 priorities we propose here. We'd like to hear your feedback, of course. That's very valuable. Nevertheless, one of the topics is that we need to dedicate more time and efforts to professional development of the people from whom we expect these multiplication effects. These are trainers and the teachers at secondary schools, universities, etc. And we need to get them from analog thinking, where there was one subject, one time. Now we're learning everybody the same intensity, and leave that to more this co-creation approach, hybridization. We teach something online, something is taught offline. So take advantage of the teacher's time more efficiently, or trainer, not only teacher, so that they are not linked to a single point, single objective. So we need to create strategic plan, not only for a single school, for the whole region, for the whole sector. How these lessons learned that we've had previously, how to translate them into the wider teaching practice. The whole thing is about, we can be talking about it, but digital transformation is not going to happen unless we enable these stakeholders to do exploration, to get to know what this digitalization is about. In my context, in my subject, in my topic, what this actually means, so that I don't perceive digitization only through, it threatens the employment, there's going to be more machines and less people, blah, 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 And perhaps these leading schools do this better. Here's your space for you. Try it out. Don't worry about it. Try it out. And we can help this teacher of history or teacher of economy to get this topic to his or her lectures. Another recommendation, perhaps different area. Now it's about the willingness to observe. People like to learn by observing. They see others doing some activity, maybe activity they are afraid of or they're concerned to try it out, but they see others doing it. Maybe they have more confidence and launch that by themselves. So we need to do that on the sectorial level. We need to institutionalize this philosophy. This World Bank conference, there was one example I've heard. A teacher who wants to educate himself or herself in a digital area. There are millions of courses about inclusion, assertivity, methodology, pedagogics, but very few in the professional area itself. For example, you want to try out something in low-code programming or something like that. There's basically nothing in that domain. Or maybe just online courses that somehow are not really very popular with this target audience. So perhaps how to get some of these lessons learned into the world of education, how to get these lessons learned from the commercial sector to the educational sector, how to create or develop, grow these digital champions, these role models and advisors who could help the others, other colleagues from their practice. If we don't do this, perhaps we might be threatened by just reshaping the old processes, like exchanging the blackboard with a digital screen. But this is not digitalization itself, right? We need to create a bank of small, successful modules that could be used in this or that subject, and to show this role model, like, oh, this is how we started in the company, this is how our team started it, how we learned. Maybe you could take away something from that in your educational institution and apply it into a wider scale. So communitization is one of the topics which we are slightly missing in Slovakia. This is perhaps not the best way to do it. And the third recommendation, which is basically on the way, it's in the pipeline. We see some progress there. It's about integration. Institutions in Slovakia are relatively small. Schools are relatively small. Also, the teams in our corporations, like shared service centers and business centers, are relatively small. Very few have people or team with 100, 200 or 300 people all focusing on a single topic. Usually you have 10, 20, 15 people dedicated to a single topic. And as we know, these small teams and small institutions can be linked. We should find some space for them to show added value.
The problem we need to address is that the jobs requiring low qualification are really not at threat in Slovakia. Rather, the mid-level jobs, the routine workers, admin worker, either manual or cognitive, but those jobs can be potentially threatened in the future. Those that can somehow add value added to those jobs can or runs a chance to survive the digitalization. Where do we see some room for integrated digital hubs that would interconnect specific institutions with specific players in the region or industry? Of course, you can't do it all, but we need to take a systemic approach to really have room and offer a teaser. What can digitalization offer, how we can manage it, how we can master the linking, and be of inspiration so others follow our pathway. It is done, but only on ad hoc basis. Different NGOs do those types of exercises, but we need to get it into the mainstream, into the regional educational system or maybe national educational system. So it's not only on kind of accidental type of, doesn't depend on accidental interaction. And therefore, stakeholders are extremely important, pontis, junior groups, etc., but we can't leave them on their own. So the question is how you as an industry can integrate in order to achieve higher impact. Maybe I could go into more details, but I would stop it in this moment in order to offer room for questions, reactions, comments, maybe sharing good practice. Thank you very much. And on behalf of my team, I'd like to really thank you. And the report will be available, so please just drop me a text or email, and it will be also available in English. For those of you who are interested in recommendations or on about what are the existing gaps. Thank you, Martin, for your presentation.
Martin,
there's one question. Private sector, together with the civil society, has created a program of digital coordinators at schools, and the Ministry of Education accredited the program. However, didn't give any money for the program, to the program. So what's your take on this one? Okay, let's keep on looking for the money. Well, this is a great example that connects to my last slide. This initiative is running. It is a great thing that there are businesses that were interested in participating. This is an example of taking a systemic approach so that we don't end up in a situation that the project ends, then we have a database, and then all the coordinators don't have anything to do. So we really need to get it into the mainstream, and also mainstream funding. And a good piece of news in this area, the good news is really that we have got the money. The project of Digital Academy is about to be launched. So some of the things we are recommending have European money. It's in the final stage when the last contracts are being signed. So for certain time, there is a project that could cover the whole initiative and activity. And what we are trying to do in the World Bank is to convince the players, the stakeholders at the regional and national level that this should not depend only on transitory money or on recovery and resilience funds and EU funds. So this is the big pressure that we need really to exert on and make on the central institutions, national institutions. They need to realize, okay, businesses are going to do it under ESG or social CSR activities. And the state will only applaud those initiatives. This is not sustainable. There are a couple of people representing civil societies, and they would definitely not agree with the fact that the state is not applauding them, but state is actually hampering, or is not maybe not hampering, but at least not helping them. So let's phase it, okay? Okay, first the state should applaud and then find money at the same time. I know exactly what they are talking about. This was Martin Ožbor, the research expert of the World Bank, and he shed some light on what's the situation like in secondary education and what are the recommendations. Martin, thank you for being with us, and the report will be available both in English and Slovak, so feel free to ask for it. Before opening our last panel discussion, I will introduce you to this discussion. We are going to talk about AI, about automation. We did it on purpose. We were talking about the importance of talent, how the industry is doing, and I'm very glad that the 3 representatives of companies have received our invitation to this panel. Those companies are not only trying to, they're not headhunters or not looking for talent, but they are also able to sell the solutions to their mother companies or sister companies or their clients. The panel will be divided into 2 parts, and I will call the panelists, and they will have exactly 3 minutes. This was a great challenge for them because their presentations, their original presentations were much longer, but they will have 3 minutes to present their company and their projects and what they are doing, and after that pitch, they will discuss. We do have Slido available, so please ask your questions because this conference is here for you. This is a community conference, so please make use of it. And one more mic for the panelists. And once we get a mic, thank you, I'd like to welcome my dear colleague, Viktoria Braciunova, Strategy and Digital Transformation Leads, Suitron. Viktoria, come up here to the stage. There is a mic. And let's see your presentation. Viktoria, over to you. Your 3-minute pitch. Thank you very much for your invitation and this opportunity to present our success story in transformation and automation. This is my passion. It has been my passion for 8 to 9 years. I talk a lot about this topic, but at the same time, I tend to speak extremely fast because, and apologies to interpreters because I will be extremely fast. So our company has branches all over. In different countries, we offer different IT services, and one of the services is automation and introduction of robotic solutions. How did we start? As all companies, there was the need to optimize and increase the efficiency of our own operations. So we started with like a standard way. We started with basic processes like onboarding, offboarding. This is fully automated, or suppliers invoice and billing, and those small robots that are downloading menus from individual restaurants, and it has so that they don't lose time by choosing and browsing the restaurants and what they offer, up to big robots that do comprehensive tasks and processes that help us to create another robots for automation. The business process outsourcing was another area. We offered a service and we committed ourselves that we will cut the costs of our customers, and as we were developing and moving forward in those 2 areas, we started to establish centers of excellence for automation at the global level. This is our approach to automation. Since we started to offer those services for other customers and created the centers of excellence, we started to profile individual positions. Currently, we have staff in different countries offering those services, and the headquarters in Slovakia, but with branches in Mexico, Romania, and other countries. A good example of that would be that each and every company or branch of this has a different take, how to automate, how to digitalize. There are many companies that have opted for their own centers of excellence. Holcim is one of the examples, or companies that have decided that those services will be outsourced. And the example is Clarios. Michal will tell you more about it. I wanted to mention it because there are huge synergies in this community where Clarios managed to really get a local subcontractor for automation and digitalization services. And they have become a grantor for the whole company, and thanks to them and with them we are growing also in automation and digitalization services. One of the challenges we have been facing was upskilling and getting new resources. This is a problem or challenge that many companies face. Now we are looking for a way how to go about it, because there is not so much resources on the market, so we really need to focus on upscaling. Half of our team is foreigners, consists of foreigners, but currently we are looking for resources and upskilling at the local Slovak market. Thank you very much, Victoria. Keep the mic, give me the pointer, and Michal Gustafik is the next one, Senior Manager of Clarion, and your 4 minutes. Thank you very much. Clarios is my company, and I'd like to walk you through some information about our company and our approach to digitalization so that you understand why we do what we do and how we do it. This is Clarios in a nutshell. We are business center in Bratislava. Clarios has 3 business centers in Monterrey and Daliana, but the headquarters or the leadership is in Bratislava. So 70% of business center people or staff is here, and the management of those 2 branches is also in Bratislava. So it's easier to manage any digitalization strategy. We do support both 59 production companies and recycling centers, which actually defines our transactions and the complexity we need to work with. And we produce about 155 million batteries annually, and our revenues is at the level of 9 billion. So, our expected growth is by plus 8%. The overall number of transactions will grow, so there will be bigger pressure on the service center. Since we are a production company and we work on technologies, battery cannot have batteries need to upscale. Also, there is a chip in the new batteries that were introduced in the market, and we have 6 R&D centers where we partner with universities because we need really to be moving on. And what increases the complexity and the value of the digitalization is our take or approach to green issues, and we are trying to make sure that 99% of our batteries are recycled. So we collect the batteries and then they go through our recycling center and then they go back to production. All those transactions are processed in our business centers. So the core of our transactions happens in business centers. Back in 2019, when the Clarios split from the mother company and was bought by Brookfield, this actually gives structure and framework to our company and its future. We were thinking about the technologies we would use for digitalization of our processes. So we were considering RPA or power applications, or we were also thinking about Power BI for reporting. We have IRP because our landscape is rather broad. We have a very broad infrastructure of IRP processes, and this is one of the reasons why we really focus on increasing the functionality of those IRP. And SharePoint is a new thing in our context, and it is used for sharing, for it serves as databases. The next step was which would be the best solution and which solution would add the best to the existing landscape? Since we are a corporation, we need to follow certain IT strategies and trends. So we cannot do something like we would take IRP and we would just replace it, because the investment can amount to a couple of dozens of millions of dollars. So we really need to work with what we have.
And therefore, we arrived at the last issue we've addressed. And that's having the right partner and the right resource. We either develop it on our own in Bratislava, or we outsource it to another company. Obviously, a global company with 9 billion can't just give a project to a local company that should be working and promoting operation of the whole corporation, because the risk is really high, the stakes are really high. The solution must be working. So, how are we faring as of now? The landscape is a manufacturing company. We have a very complex environment. Everybody, you remember COVID, right? So we have inflation. That's a big pressure on data, and data must be processed immediately and must be provided to the right people immediately in the right time. The time, okay, I'm running out of time. The last sentence. Okay, so the last sentence is, overall, we've developed 41 production robots that actually work with Sojdron, 21 power apps, and we have 4 global projects that saved approximately 13% FTE, which are in Bratislava, but we didn't let anybody go. We all gave these people more work by implementing new activities. Thank you very much. Please do take your seat. Thank you once again. And the last presenter is Nikola Kishardayova, head of RPS Center, Product Excellence Center, Holcim Businesses. Nikola, the floor is yours. This is the presenter, and your 4 minutes are running as of now. First of all, thank you very much for having me here. Thanks, AmCham. Happy to be here with you today. Good morning. Afternoon, actually. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Nikola Kishardayova. I come from Košice, and I work in Košice. I work for Holcim, European Business Services. Holcim, as you probably know, is a global leader in manufacturing sustainable construction materials and solutions. Our center in Košice provides services in the field of accounting, administration, finance to our Holcim companies around Europe, but also other corporate functions across the globe. And we closely cooperate with our sister business service centers, companies in Latin America and India. I've been working for Holcim for 10 years. I've gone through various expert positions and project management positions, and I've been working in robotization for 5 years. I wanted to include in this presentation also the photos of the teams that I've been working with. At the moment, I'm heading Center of Excellence for Robotization and Automation globally for Holcim Business Service Centers across the globe. They are located in India, Mumbai, in Medellin, Colombia, and in Košice, Slovakia. And exactly in Košice, we are very proud to have achieved certain milestones in robotization and automation. For example, 2022, we were awarded to be the authors of the Best Automation Projects in CE Business Awards. And the same year, 2022, we were awarded also for Best Automation Project, but by the Lean Institute in the Czech Republic and Slovakia. So at the moment, we have 2,000 people in Holcim Business Services. Moreover, we have 200 robots, bots as we call them, or more than 200 actually, and this is creating huge value. They are replacing manual work, or blue collar work, which is automated. and which could be compared to a small shared service center. So just to give you a scale, European Business Services in Košice, we have 315 employees. Well, is it enough? Is it not enough? Well, we certainly want to increase that number, and it is our ambition to double that number in the upcoming years. Our teams basically collaborate closely. So people in my team cooperate with the Excellence Center so that we even better share information and best practices with other branches of Holcim, and also to take advantage of resources better and talents we have also here in Slovakia, so that our teams collaborate with the respective centers, but they work for all centers we have in Holcim globally. And talking about the current challenges we have, well, it's maintenance of the bots and continuous improvement of these bots, talent acquisition, so we want to attract new talented people in our teams, and gradual implementation of more advanced technology in our processes and efficient application of AI or machine learning. Thank you very much. I'm excited about the panel discussion. Thank you very much, Nicola. Leave the microphone. So, ladies and gentlemen, Nicola and Victoria, could you please swap places so that you are under your photos, so that it's not so confusing. So these are three representatives of companies that are operating in Slovakia. They work or create, let's say, develop AI or AI-based solutions, or solutions that incorporated AI successfully. And as you could see on their presentations, they also export these solutions abroad. So, Michal, let me start with you. You've mentioned that 13% of FTE was saved by these bots and automated solutions, but you didn't let anybody go. No one was made redundant. So can you elaborate on this? Well, of course. So let me explain. When we were calculating the headcount, we realized that we didn't make anyone redundant, and our objective actually is that automation and bots actually fulfill this boring, quote-unquote, work, administrative work, and invest more into education of our people. So we want to upskill our people and therefore take care of all the transition activities that we receive here in Bratislava. So all these 13% of FTEs that was saved, we partially filled by transition, and in a great part we invested into these people and their further development. So no one was made redundant. Nicola, you mentioned that your center in Košice is part of a center of excellence, which is a global thing, in Medellin, in Colombia, and Mumbai in India, right? So how do you find the cooperation of this Slovak center with this ecosystem, and how do you deal with collaboration at the international level with these centers? Oh, that's a good question. Thank you. Basically, just last week we reconciled the figures concerning the penetration of automation in our processes within the respective centers. Just to give you an idea, the Colombian center in Medellin, they have 1,200 employees. Our in Košice has 315. So there's a different scale, right? 4 times fewer employees. But within Europe, a lot of things have been done in automation. So a large percentage of what I was talking about, of the total workforce that we have in RPA, large percentages for Europe. And let me tell you the reason for this, that we perhaps realize more the fact that robotization and automation is something that we are dependent on. This is our future, this is our competitiveness. So I believe a lot is invested in the strategy and objectives that be, not only for the team within our centers, the robotization team, but for the respective teams in the company that take advantage of that automation, robotization. They very well realize that this is something we need to invest in. Thank you. Victoria, in your presentation, If I understood correctly, you said that you're a company that is operating internationally, Slovakia, Czech Republic, and Romania, and you are a supplier also of Holcim and Clarios. So how do you perceive automation and robotization in Slovakia? Is it really so bad with the talents? Are we really facing such a bad problem with talented people in the market? It is a challenge. It is a challenge at the moment, and that's why actually we are resourcing or sourcing our people from abroad. But the interest is huge. The interest or demand is huge. So that's why we're creating this skill set. And these shared service centers and companies that automate their operations are those that are actually shaping this skill set and talent set. And we approach this by going out, contacting secondary schools and establishing academies, because that's a huge opportunity for any shared service center to build that skill set and automate that, even at the secondary school level, and thus establish their position in the Slovak market. What are the challenges in building these models and automation? Actually, a lot of companies started to automate. They embarked on the automation train, but they have negative experience because they didn't start properly. There's a whole methodology of how to launch that, how to sustain that, maintenance on operations, etc., etc. So it's very important to set up your operations model at the very beginning correctly. And then you upskill, you develop, you communicate with business, with IT, so that the model is built correctly in those respective organizations, so that it doesn't demotivate. Because I've seen this in a number of companies, this automation, robotization demotivates some employees because it's not deployed, correctly. Michal, in your presentation, you said that it is a problem to give a contract to Slovak company from a global corporation. So why is that? Well, think about a global company that really does a huge business. Every single supplier who is contracted must have a certain guarantee of continuity. And this gives you, as a global company, that if you invest in the digitalization with this or that guy or institution, it must be working for at least 5 years. And the corporation, or we, looks in what volume of finance is actually covered and whether this company is going to be operating 5 years down the line. Some risk management analysis. Another thing we look at is the number of your full-time employees who can take advantage, who can take care of post-development maintenance. And this is getting to be very critical because number of companies that are here, IT companies, they don't have their full-time employees. They have contractors, suppliers that do not enter the total assessment or calculation of the company, and that's a problem. Is that really a problem for global companies? Because this model of employment of people, whether it's a full-time employee or just a contractor, is just think of a national or regional legislation, right? Well, yes and no. I believe that for us and for every company, it's a problem. Because as soon as a supplier of a specific solution goes out and they are a unique provider and they are responsible for unique functions, immediately you need to have local IT take over that. I'm talking about the maintenance, right? And if they don't have full documentation to that, they don't have resource, then the solution is there's outage of this solution. We need to patch that with different solutions. And what would be the solution for small and medium-sized enterprises or startups who might have a good idea, but they don't make it through your assessment because of lack of employees? They don't stand a chance for that. Well, that's a good question, but we do have a solution in Bratislava. I know I have a few people who are really smart IT guys. They can cover a great gap in the market, and I'm talking about integration of ERP, SAP, and processes that be in your given organization. So we take advantage of consultations. So the people I'm talking about are consultants, and we bring that knowledge internally in Clarios, and we build the center within our company with our employees, and it's a guarantee of stability, saying that anything will be developed, will be operating in the future. But we are basically buying that knowledge from them. And does it work? It works fine, yes. Oh, that's a good news for startupists and maybe young people who would like to do business in this sector. Nicola, a question from the audience for you.
Where do you see the difference in the area of digital expertise and skills and kind of maturing of the regions, or where the regions are kind of leaders and where there are some gaps? Just like in the previous question, I have already outlined that the digitalization and automation is not only about one team that identifies different opportunities or programs, automation, but it's about the whole of organization and how the organization is structured. And if you take the scale, or if you compare us with other countries, then we are talking about huge differences when it comes to labor force and approach to labor force or talents that we need. And also the realization or the inevitability of how fast do we need to automate. This has a great impact on the processes. And when it comes to my teams or my expert team, I need to say that there's a lot to learn from each other, either in soft skills, like how to do self-promotion, how to really sell us harder, communicate what do we do, then pragmatic approach, how to approach a solution to different problems, and also perseverance or hard work, and also healthy competition. So all those aspects or elements are present in the region, but the question is which one prevails. So there's a lot to learn from each other. Petya was saying that the centers of shared services in the region are the carriers or the driving force of many ideas and innovation. And when it comes to Holcim, how do you decide which process you are going to automate or digitalize, or where are you going to look into? So is it like you as the leader of the Center of Excellence, you will say we are going to do this or that, or you get just instructions from the headquarters? Well, if we say that, okay, this is the way we want it, the others will tell me how this is impossible to do it. So then we try to reach a consensus. Basically, there are two types of approaches. One, the better, I would say, analytical approach. So we try to take bird's perspective on the processes. We check data, where is the level of manual work the highest, and then we zoom in on the process, and then we try to come up with a solution. Sometimes the automation is not the only answer. Sometimes you just need to restructure the processes or the area. And the second approach is people engagement. In digitalization and automation, there are champion groups that in their teams try to promote automation. And this is how we get ideas bottom up. And then often this is combined with top-down analysis. This is our approach or our take. You have your boss in this room, so I'm not going to ask you. I'm going to ask Michal because he doesn't have his boss here. Often when we talk to people in corporations about digital technologies, often whether we talk to financial or manager or CEO, and they often hear that if you are not going to have digitalization, if you don't digitalize at least 20% of your processes in your company, you are going to be dead in a couple of years. And they usually come back home and they say, buy 20 kilos of AI, so to say. Is it difficult to really win over the employees and people in your company? Well, this is what happened to us exactly. The people don't want to do or be involved in repetitive or manual work. And since we started working with robots at accountatory service, that was our pilot. And then we showed this pilot to other departments because people cannot imagine what a robot could do. And they can't actually define where they would use it. So there's a huge pushback. And when we showed them some projects, like there are disputes from our customers, and currently we don't need to take care of this because the robot identifies the dispute of the customer, finds the document, logs on the customer's site, then provides all the documents and close it up, and then it only reports to us, and the customer needs to accept that. So then the employees realize that, oh my God, I don't need to process those 1,000 requests that I get monthly manually. So this is fantastic. And now we sell it to other regions, and now we are getting huge interest from the US or Latin America or also Germany. So they are very interested in RPA. Throughout past 2 years, we have seen a huge shift in mindset, not only in the area of RPA, but also in different areas of digitalization. There has been a complete different take on that. The corporate culture has changed when it comes to digital. So this was a great example of how the corporate culture can change. What was the breaking point, the game changer for you? The pushback before, and all of a sudden you got 500,000 and you got a green light, like, okay, go ahead and automate further. I think the deal breaker was the first success story. That's what Michael was saying, that people really realize that this is not jeopardizing their positions, that this is going to make their lives easier. And then the people continue in their training, they are looking for opportunities, and they themselves are trying to identify processes they would like to automate. There was a question. You were mentioning lack of skilled labor. How does the lifelong learning work in your company? It's not the lack of qualified labor, but in this area, Slovakia, Czech Republic, we lack experience, but the skill set is out there. Sometimes it takes them 3 to 4 months in order to dive into the topic, and after 6 months they can automate mid-level of complexity of processes. Excuse me.
The automation, mainly through AI, is a huge opportunity to extend or expand digitization through, cognitive functions, various knowledge-sharing projects. It's a huge potential we are facing here, also in shared service centers. How to maintain or keep your people, how to upskill your people, and the possibilities for upskilling are multiple. So if I want to work for Soitron, do I get the opportunity? Well, obviously anyone does. We were searching for a skill set in the market through HR, and we had this guy from HR who fell in love with it. He started to learn that, and he said, like, I'd like to work for you in this specific industry, and he works for us, and he's very successful. Nikola Holcim has center in Košice that takes care of finance. What would you advise to a person with talent in IT and finance, how to educate himself or herself? And Nikola said that from HR, they had a guy who now works in IT. Can HR guy work in IT or finance with you if he's motivated, or she? Well, of course, we have a few examples like that. Perhaps I didn't mention in my introduction the original team that we put together 5 or 6 years ago within European Business Services. All of these people were originally in very different teams. Operation teams, they were dedicated to these core activities we had. So very different subjects. But then they reprofiled into these roles, whether business analyst or We even have an example of a RPA programmer who previously worked with reporting, and he learned that technology himself alone. And one more thing I want to say, technology is developing in itself, and it's becoming more and more available, accessible to business users. So when we were trying to do something 5 years ago, through some detour, etc., now it's very simple. And also, business users can learn how to work with these platforms. Of course, always only to a degree. And I believe that the user or expert who knows the process and knows the technology, they have great advantage. So it doesn't matter if you work in finance, it's rather a question of wanting and being driven, exactly as you say. And also, and if you believe that automation is the future, so if you are convinced about that, and if you really want to do that, there are possibilities for our communities where you can educate yourself. And we certainly have space for that, for these people. So a moderator can be a devil's advocate. So others also those who want to do it, but it doesn't work, and you need to convince them that they have to try something else? Well, no, I don't know if we have a case like that, but I can tell you that, yes, we work with two platforms. Sometimes, at the beginning, there's a resistance among those who worked on a single platform. They didn't want to migrate to the second platform. But with the experience and practically going through several projects, they feel now very comfortable in both platforms. So I think we're getting to the same conclusions. If you really want, and if you give it a try and work on yourself, you end up with a good result. Okay, Michal, to be fair, I didn't let you finish your presentation. I know, I'm sorry. But maybe I'll give you a question that will help you finish your presentation. What are the future plans of Clarios in automation? Well, we're planning to involve or incorporate even more bots, 77 more bots in the future. And since we're trying to extend the platform also in business, and robots are not the only platform we are working on, we also want to do reporting and Power BI. As we know, Power BI are dashboards, more or less. From our perspective, it's not dashboards, because what we are developing and what we are trying to do and sell to our business is data management. So data management, data cubes, and the source of data for these dashboards is, we developed it here in Bratislava by our own team. And this is now becoming a basic building block for the whole middle management reporting. And that's something we're going to invest in, because we were even approached from Asia. They want to see that solution, they want to copy that solution, but we want to supply it as a solution, in like a box solution, not just like some visuals, And maybe just react to that question, previous question. We also have people who are from finance and now they are in IT and development. These people are outstanding source of how to bridge over from finance to IT development, As we heard at the beginning, the most important part of development is the design and overall assignment and the statement of work. And these people know exactly how to outline this and to define it to developers themselves, who will draw the project to the end. Because if you don't do it this way, usually the bot doesn't work, or there's some additional cost for changes.
We keep on talking about businesses, SMEs and private sector. Are there any possibilities of automation in public administration, education, healthcare? And what's the drive in those institutions for automation? I think there are huge opportunities for that, be it any part of civil service. And the advantage of the automation is that you don't change platforms. That's one of the constraints of public companies, that they basically will need to undergo very demanding changes of system, while the automation works in the existing system. The robots or the automation happens in the current environment. So I think the public sector or civil sector civil service, is a bit reluctant. I have seen first examples, and I think that this is a great pity that they are not tapping onto this potential. The benefit comes very swiftly, the costs are very low, and the savings are there, especially in repetitive activities. And the public administration should save money and should be more lean and efficient. So it's a pity that they are not using it. We have only 4 minutes to go. And if you may, very briefly, if you think about where your companies are right now in terms of automation, what would be the one thing that would dramatically accelerate automation in your company? Nicola? One thing would be, well, we try to resolve all the challenges that are out there, but what I would like to underline is that we need to realize that this is the future. Automation is not here to sack people and fire our staff, but it's here to be more efficient, to do more for less. More and more activities are shifted to the center, so our partners are interested in us working for them. So how to do it in such a way that we are interesting for them? That's the way. So everybody should realize that if they participate in digital, or if they embark on the digital road, it will create opportunity for him or her. Well, in our case, it's infrastructure of the whole company. We closely cooperate with our leadership in Milwaukee, and we try to create conditions for implementation of any future solutions, RPA, reporting, power-ups. We are trying to make the change that would untie our hands, and that we take a better approach to data, the data that is very protected, because each and every company has so many opportunities and requirements how to secure data, how to protect data. And we have struggled with this, the access to our drives, how to approach to this question in our company. So when the global IT changes the approach and those solutions are more open, this would really make our life much more easier. Well, we have decided to provide those services, and this represents 90% of our workload, actually, and we have built the competencies in offering services in business process outsourcing and robotization, and currently we have a couple of hundreds of robots in that given platform, and we outsource them for the companies. So we want to increase the share of the robots through business process outsourcing, and currently we have big plans, and we are scaling up. We are going to reach the US market, and we want to do most of it from Slovakia. Of course, there are certain specifics, and last year we were growing also in Mexico, where we have about 11 headcounts, where our headcount is about 11. But the culture is different there, so we needed to, of course, get aligned with that. And but as much as possible, we want to do from Slovakia. So those are our future plans when it comes to growth and future. And one more, AI is a huge driver We are trying to educate the corporations also about AI, that AI goes hand in hand with digitalization, automation, and it will bring big benefits. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's trust technologies, give money to creating infrastructure and innovation, have drive, and products made in Slovakia may represent Slovakia abroad and on global level, at least in centers of shared services. Thank you very much for great panel. Victoria from Citron. Michal, Senior Manager from Clarius, and Nicola, of course, from Center of Excellence, Wholesale Businesses. This is it. Thank you very much for your attention. I really appreciate the fact that only few chairs are empty. So obviously we have offered such content that has been of interest to you. And the business shared service centers are here. They are growing. Of course, there are certain pitfalls or problems, but we are trying to overcome them. And when we were looking into global trends and reports, and we were looking into comparison, Slovakia is really a leader in the industry, and not only by the fact that this sector is resilient and adaptable, flexible, but it also generates ideas, comes up with new ideas and products. So I believe that the future is clear and bright and positive. And I hope that next year at our anniversary flagship event, we will be happy and we will have reasons to celebrate. And I'd like to thank our partners, the Ministry of Economy, for their cooperation documents and for the possibility to openly communicate, and then technical partner Hurricane that made this conference so attractive and visually and technically smoothly, and media partners Trend and Slovak Spectator and the AmCham and all people involved and all members of Business Service Center Forum. And before we say goodbyes and we enjoy our lunch, I hope that you will stay with us and enjoy lunch and you will keep on networking. I'd like to bring your attention to two documents that are out there in front of this hall. The AmCham has produced two leaflets, how our country works. Country for young. We believe that this country can help young people to find talent, to execute their talent, to come back from abroad. And the second document that is out there talks about watchdog functionalities. Who keeps an eye on our politicians, how the legislative process is going. Recently, we have seen how the process was like. Thank you very much for your support. And have a great day and the rest of the week, and check out the last video and have a great day.
Chcem porozumenie.
Aby sa ľudia počúvali.
Aby tu veci fungovali. Chcem, aby sa tu dalo zostať. Neísť voliť ničemu nepomôže.
Chcem rozhodnúť za seba.
Preto volím. Preto volím.
V sobotu všetci budete chcieť
But I hope that on Saturday everybody will do their bit to change Slovakia, and you and your families and the people who may vote will cast their vote. It doesn't matter which party. We are in the moratorium, of course, but I hope you will vote for the right party that will make Slovakia go ahead and progress and be successful also in terms of business, and who will help to create this country to be a better place for the future and for the young people. Thank you very much.